Morning and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Committees on Housing and Buildings jointly with Health. At this time, we ask that you silence all cell phones and electronic devices to minimize disruptions throughout the hearing. If you have testimony you wish to submit for the record, you may do so via email at testimony@council.nyc.gov. Once again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. At any time throughout the hearing, please do not approach the dais. We thank you for your cooperation. Chairs, we are ready to begin.
Thank you, partnership. Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I just want to apologize for a tardy start on my behalf, but thank you all so much for being here today. I am Councilmember Pierina Sanchez, Chair of the Committee on Housing and Buildings. I want to thank you all for attending today's joint hearing with the Committee on Health on lead-based paint hazards. Thank you to my co-chair, Chair Schulman, for holding this hearing with me today. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues from the City Council who are present. Councilmember Carr, Councilmember Abreu, Councilmember Arreola. For over 60 years, New York City has been a leader in lead exposure hazard regulation, banning the use of lead-based paint in the 1960s prior to New York State or the federal government, passing stringent regulations in 1982, again in 1999, though litigated, also Local Law 1 of 2004, and most recently reforms in 2019 and 2021. Each attempt was met with steep resistance, but bullish in the assertion and goal that lead poisoning in children is entirely preventable, New York City and the advocacy community pushed forward. While these efforts have met some success in preventing lead-based poisoning, lead poisoning today is a hazard faced by a child in New York City, truly depending on their zip code and their race. According to the 2022 DOHMH report, 2,557 children under the age of 6 had high blood lead levels in 2021. From the sample, 81% were Asian, Black, or Latino. 88% of these children were from moderate to high poverty neighborhoods. And for me, it's striking, although unfortunately not surprising, that 65% of these children poisoned reside in just a few neighborhoods in the Bronx. These are unacceptable realities. Despite what's been required by state law, not every child aged 1 and 2 is tested for elevated blood lead levels. What's more, COVID-19 lockdown measures meant children were spending more time in their homes, potentially increasing the risk of poisoning, and at the same time, making them much less likely to get their lead levels tested. We must do better. The dangers of lead poisoning are well established. Lead can have devastating, lifelong health consequences for children, even at low levels of exposure. Children should be safe to explore and grow in their own homes without the danger of ingesting or inhaling toxic lead paint, chips, or dust. When the City Council passed the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Act in 2004, or Local Law 1 of 2004, the goal was to eliminate child lead poisoning by 2010. That deadline came and has long passed. Acknowledging that failure at a 2018 hearing, the City Council subsequently passed 2 packages of legislation to tighten existing lead laws to help the city reach our goal. Because absolutely no level, we must be clear and assertive about that, no level of lead exposure is acceptable. These laws lowered the threshold for blood lead levels and lead paint and required remediation in spaces where a child spends 10 or more hours per week, even if it's not their home. These laws also increased outreach and education requirements and created more rigorous testing for lead-based paint hazards. In acknowledgement that the city failed in response to previous legislation to inspect and hold landlords accountable, the legislation also created a proactive inspection program at HPD. Those laws addressed some key problems, but they were not enough. There are still loopholes that allow lead hazards to persist. And today, the committees will hear a package of bills designed to address those loopholes and to get the city to its goal of 0 childhood lead poisoning once and for all. These bills are Intro Number 5, sponsored by Councilmember Ayala, relating to records of lead-based paint investigations. Number 6, sponsored by Councilmember Ayala, relating to the permanent removal of lead-based paint on friction surfaces in child-occupied dwellings. Number 193, sponsored by Councilmember Rivera, who may join us today, relating to lead-based paint hazards in common areas of dwellings. Intro number 200, sponsored by Councilmember Salamanca, relating to quarterly reporting on objections to orders for the abatement or remediation of lead conditions. Number 750 by Ayala, relating to proactive identification and inspection of dwellings where children are at risk of lead poisoning. A preconsidered introduction, sponsored by Councilmember Rivera, relating to a declaration of public nuisance by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development in connection with lead hazards, and preconsidered intros sponsored by Councilmember Shulman, related to the assessment of certain children with elevated blood lead levels. I would like to thank my staff, Sam Cardenas, Kadeem Robinson, as well as the Housing and Buildings Committee staff, Audrey Sun, Taylor Zaloni, Jose Conde, Charles Kim, Dan Krupp, and Brooke Fry. I will now pass it to Chair Shulman for her opening remarks.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Sanchez, for holding this important hearing today. I am Councilmember Lynn Shulman, Chair of the Committee on Health. The purpose of today's hearing is to consider a package of legislation designed to eliminate the risk of lead paint poisoning in New York City. For far too long, lead paint hazards have plagued our city's most vulnerable communities. Each instance of lead paint poisoning in our city is a completely avoidable tragedy. The only acceptable number of exposures to lead paint is 0, and it is incumbent on policymakers, the administration, and building owners to make that number a reality. Today we are here to say, for our parents, for our children, and for the health of our city, enough is enough. In New York City, lead-based paint hazards remain a significant public health concern, particularly for children. Many older buildings in the city still contain lead paint. When lead paint deteriorates or it's disturbed, it can release toxic lead dust or chips, which can be ingested or inhaled, leading to lead poisoning. Adult exposure to lead can cause health problems, in particular to pregnant women. For children 6 and under, lead poisoning can have serious health consequences as their developing brains and bodies are especially vulnerable to exposure. Even low levels of exposure can cause irreversible neurological damage, leading to developmental delays, learning disabilities, and behavioral problems. Long-term exposure has been linked to other health issues, including headaches, stomach aches, hypertension, nausea, kidney damage, and reproductive health problems. And DOHMH reporting shows that these devastating health impacts are overwhelmingly and disproportionately felt by communities of color. In 2021, Asian, Black, and Latino children represented 81% of children under age 6 newly identified with elevated lead blood levels. This is a horrifying statistic. When exposed to lead, young children may not exhibit any symptoms, which is why early screening and evaluations is so important. My bill, being considered today, would directly address this issue by requiring DOHMH to provide a referral for any child determined to have elevated blood lead levels to the Committee on Special Education within the Department of Education for a comprehensive evaluation to determine the child's eligibility for special education services, including the development of an individualized education program. We must do everything in our power to proactively identify lead exposure as early in a child's life as possible and connect them with the services and support they need so that they are not left behind. Let me be clear. Lead paint poisoning is an insidious form of an environmental bias and discrimination and one of the longest and most damaging public health disasters that our city has ever faced. We must do everything in our power to end this crisis once and for all. I want to conclude by thanking the advocates who worked tirelessly on this issue, and I look forward to your testimony. Additionally, I'd like to thank the Health Committee staff for their work on this hearing, Committee Counsel Sarah Sucha and Chris Pepe, Policy Analyst Manor Butt, as well as my team, Chief of Staff Jonathan Boucher, and Legislative Director Kevin McAleer. I will now turn it over to the Committee Counsel to administer the oath. Thank you.
Great, so we're first going to be starting with a pre-panel of an impacted family and one of our leading advocates.
Thank you. The initial panel will consist of Cooper Burkett, Shannon Burkett, Jill Samuels, and Matt Shisher. If you're here in person, if you can make your way up to the table, and if you're joining via Zoom, please be ready to accept the prompt to unmute. And once you're seated, you may begin when you're ready.
Hello? Okay. Hi, my name is Cooper Burkett. I'm 15 years old and I grew up here in Lower Manhattan. I was diagnosed with lead poisoning when I was 9 months old. The construction site below our apartment contaminated our apartment with lead dust and I got sick. My parents were told repeatedly by the contractor that there was nothing in the dust, and the building told my parents that there was nothing they could do about the dust. But any debris or uncontrolled dust outside of a construction site is illegal. I've had to live with multiple side effects from my lead exposure as a baby. Shortly after my lead level shot up to 19, I lost the ability to speak. I have processing issues, short-term memory loss, anemia, asthma, and I also have the worst case of pica my pediatrician has seen in her 20-year history. I ate sheetrock off the wall, I ate the wood off my crib, books, clothes, foam, cardboard, you name it. The GERD and pain in my stomach became so bad that I barely ate and became failure to thrive. I had an ulcer when I was 5, and an endoscopy biopsy revealed that I had scarring in the lining of my stomach. The processing issues, difficulty regulating my emotions, and short-term memory loss still haunt me today. I get my memories confused. Someone can tell me something that happened to them, and I'll confuse it and retell that story as if it happened to me, because my mind will mix it up and I'll think it actually did happen to me. It's really hard not to trust your own memory. The fact is, lead poisoning is a perfectly preventable disease, and no kid should ever suffer the way I did. You have the power to stop this from happening, and I hope by sharing my story, I can help end lead poisoning. Please support the bills being proposed and enforce all the current laws in place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Shannon Burkett. I am Cooper's mother. From December 2006 through May of 2007, lead dust permeated our apartment from construction work occurring in the store below our apartment. The lead dust was never properly cleaned, and my son was exposed and tested positive for lead at 9 months old. This neurotoxin was detrimental to his development as well as his physical and mental health. As a toddler, his reflux was so intense that he would wake up most mornings crying from the pain in his stomach, and he would throw up what looked like battery acid in my hand. I would have to coax him to eat. The reactive asthma sent him to the ER, and during a particularly bad bout of pneumonia, the radiologist said that his lung x-ray looked the same as a kid with cystic fibrosis. And he has had major behavioral challenges. He became filled with rage. As a toddler, he would have these violent temper tantrums several times a day. He had no understanding of his safety. He would escape our apartment. Starting at 2 years old, he would push a chair against the door and unlock the multiple old school locks on our door and escape. When we would go on vacation, my husband would have to sleep with him in a separate room. He would have to push furniture up against the door to make sure that he didn't leave. One time at his grandparents' home, he actually did escape, and we found him 7 houses away. Since he was 1 year old, he has received multiple services from the city: OT, SI, counseling, speech. He is currently in an ICT class, which has 15 general education students and 10 IEP students. My husband and I have scaffolded him with multiple tutors, and he is under the care of professionals at NYU's Child Study Center to help him regulate his emotions. No kid should ever suffer the way Cooper has. We as a society and as a community need to commit to doing everything we can to eradicate lead exposure and take care of those kids who have been decimated by this neurotoxin. Please support the proposed bills and enforce the current laws in place, making sure that no other child suffers from this perfectly preventable disease. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me testify before you. My name is Jill Samuels. I am the Program Administrator for the Lead Poisoning Prevention and Treatment Program at Montefiore Medical Center. We treat children and pregnant individuals poisoned with lead. Patients with elevated blood lead levels are referred to our program for medical management and resource assistance. Currently, the Lead Poisoning Prevention and Treatment Program clinic averages at least 3 new lead-poisoned children each week. and that's how many we can take in our clinic per week. So we do have more than that, but we average 3 per week, and we consult with other healthcare providers in New York City, New York State, and across the United States about additional children with elevated blood lead levels. 1 lead-poisoned child is too many. The current reference level for lead in the blood is 3.5 micrograms per deciliter, recently reduced from 5. At the present time in New York City, the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene receives the results of lead blood tests from labs and initiates public health action for all results at a 3.5 microgram per deciliter level or above. No safe blood level has been identified. Lead is a naturally occurrent toxic element found in the Earth's crust. Lead is not only not required by the body to function, but also a poison for any organism. The lead effects are even more severe in children, including developing fetuses who are exposed to lead through the placenta during pregnancy, and newborns from breastfeeding, whose developing brains and bodies are especially susceptible to this harmful neurotoxin. It only takes the size of 1 granule of sugar to poison a child. When lead is absorbed into the body, it can result in damage to the brain, nervous system, learning and behavior problems, including violent tendencies, slow growth and development. All of you have heard a lot of this. I'm not going to go over more. I'm out of time, but these bills are very important. There should be no child exposed to lead.
Thank you so much. Ms. Cooper, in 2006 and 2007, when your son was exposed, what recourse did you take? It sounds like you brought complaints and you weren't listened to. Who were you speaking with at that time?
We actually owned our apartment. So we were taking our complaints to our building management. We were taking it to the construction contractor. We were taking it to the landlord of the space below our apartment. So it was a store space below that, it's actually right across the street. The store space below was being renovated and turned into a bank. And they literally came into our apartment, and this was for months. This was for months and months and months. And I was actually pregnant with Cooper. And this is something that's very, very important to understand, is that lead doesn't come out of fabrics and it doesn't come out of floors unless it's properly cleaned. So this was left a year before Cooper was born. After Cooper was born and he started crawling around on the ground and putting in his hands in his mouth, that's when he got the exposure from lead. So you can renovate, if you renovate a space in a way that leaves the dust there, lead doesn't break down. It can sicken a child months, years afterwards. That's the importance. That is how important it is to abate lead properly.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you all so much. And I think we also have Matthew Shisher on the Zoom. If you can unmute.
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Good. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify today. I apologize, I cannot be present in person. I'm an attorney emeritus at Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation, a nonprofit community-based legal services provider in Washington Heights. And for the last 30 years, I've worked in the field of childhood lead poisoning prevention. As counsel to the New York City Coalition to End Lead Poisoning, I've been involved in key state and federal class actions that have defined the parameters of government and real estate responsibilities to prevent lead poisoning in children. And since 2009, I've also served on the New York State Advisory Council on Lead Poisoning Prevention. I worked very closely in the drafting of New York City's current lead poisoning law, Local Law 1 of 2004, and a number of the amendments to that law that were enacted in the prior council in the years 2019 through 21. I've already submitted to the committees 23 pages of written testimony for today's hearing that cover the history of New York City's lead laws, the intent behind them, and probably most importantly, the data that I've compiled from the New York City Open Data database. demonstrating the lack of compliance and enforcement. And rather than try to summarize all of that in the brief time in my opening statement, I'll yield that time to questions from the committee regarding that data. But the bottom line is this: while New York City has indeed made significant strides in some respects, the data indicates there's still widespread non-compliance with key aspects of Local Law 1, even with the amendments, and that children continue to be needlessly poisoned. In fact, the health department data shows that the rate of poisoning has remained flat for the last 3 years. In other words, it's not declining anymore. And that's completely unprecedented in the decades of data on lead poisoning rates in New York City. So clearly more needs to be done. And I think some of the various introductions before the council today are essential to that task. I just want to touch on two key aspects of Local Law 1 and why we see that these are still not working as they ought to be. The old law in New York City, the law of 1982, was interpreted by the courts to say basically landlords must abate every molecule of paint that contains lead, regardless of whether a child is poisoned, regardless of whether it's intact or peeling. That's what the court said. There was enormous pushback on that, and a compromise came out in the Local Law 1 of 2004, which said, okay, as the landlords were arguing, don't make us take it out, we can manage it in place. So what the statute said was, okay, you can leave the lead paint there, but you have to actively inspect your own dwellings at least once a year, more often as necessary, and safely remove the lead hazards and document this in writing. Why? Because we, the council, and this is in the statement of intent, make it the responsibility of owners to inspect their premises and remove the lead hazards before we find them. And it was an acknowledgement that with at any time 300,000 units of older housing stock with lead paint and young children living in them, there's no way the city can inspect them all. And a second key aspect of the law was that we're going to require that the highest risk surfaces be abated at vacancy, the friction surfaces on doors and windows. So when we came in front of the council 4 years ago to discuss the data, we had discovered that the city had placed absolutely zero violations for either of these two aspects of Local Law 1, except in 5 instances where I personally, as an attorney, had taken the city and the landlord to court. So that was it. The council then amended the laws to say, okay, the city is going to actually do some audits, 200 buildings a year, to see what landlords are doing about this. And you know what the results of those audits are? They're in my testimony, but basically the city has found that of the buildings that it audited, over 90% of the landlords had not done their annual inspections. And the same issues came up with the abatement at vacancy. The city's audits also found no one's been complying where the city audits. So some of these proposals here would help advance that agenda. Particular local law, Intro 5 would require that every time HPD finds a peeling lead paint violation, it's going to ask the landlord to cough up their records to show whether or not they've been inspecting their own apartment, because it stands to reason that if HPD is finding peeling lead paint, then the landlord failed to do it, which was its responsibility. HPD will no doubt tell you today that we're doing a great job. We're writing more lead paint violations than ever. And my point is that 20 years after this law went into effect, we shouldn't still be seeing so many peeling lead paint violations. Obviously, the bad landlords are not inspecting their apartments. Obviously, we need to make them do it. And whatever effort it's going to take to make the city, by the city to make landlords do it is in the long run going to save us money, both in terms of the cost of poisoning children.
Thank you so much, Matt. And just, Matthew, and just to, I think it would be helpful to hear it in this way. You've been a part of probably all litigation relating to lead poisoning and lead reference standards in the city of New York over the past 30 years, and all of the legislation and reforms that have passed. And I think in your testimony, you say the good news is that the data indicates that at long last, the city is finally doing some proactive inspection, and you just mentioned that what is alarming and what is the bad news is the high failure rate. And so just to ask you this pointed question, and then I do want to turn it over to Councilmember Rivera while we have a quorum in the room. What should the trends look like? What should the numbers look like if we were going in the right direction with respect to our proactive inspections outcomes?
Yes, well, thank you for that question. If you look on page 15 of my testimony, I actually graphed out every year of lead violations issued since the first law went into effect in 1982. And you'll see that when local law 1 came into effect in 2004, late in 2004, the numbers spiked up because the city was doing a better job of inspecting. Then it kind of dropped, and then it's continued to increase. We should have seen instead, if the law was working as it should, and if the law was going to achieve the goal of ending lead poisoning by 2010, which obviously hasn't happened, we should have seen that number go down. Instead, it keeps going up every year. And I would submit it's because the administration of HPD has never taken seriously the requirement that landlords self-inspect their own apartments and document in writing. It's the only part of local law 1 that actually creates a misdemeanor punishable by up to 6 months in jail if a landlord fails to do this. The audit concept, which we developed and which was enacted by the prior council, said, let's look at 200 buildings a year and see how we're doing. Well, we don't know the answer to that. The answer is when you audit and you find over 90% non-compliance, obviously that sample can be presumed to be indicative of the overall pattern in the city. So again, I think Intro 5 would help remedy this by really putting some teeth into the self-inspection requirements. I mean, this was the real estate industry's argument all along. Don't make us take it off. We can manage it. We'll take care of our apartments. But obviously the bad landlords aren't. And instead the city keeps having to do landlord's job and inspect for lead. That's pretty straightforward. The other piece of this, again, is the vacancy abatements. This was, again, a major compromise in local law 1, where the draft of the bill said we're going to make all that lead paint on friction surfaces get abated by, I think it was 2007, period, sunset. The pushback from the Bloomberg administration and the real estate lobby back then was, no, that's too rigorous, but we'll make them do it at vacancy because it's cheaper and safer to do it at vacancy. So what have we found? We found that now that the city's starting to look at that landlords weren't doing it. You know, we kept saying to the administration, you know, you need to look at this. And they kept saying, well, we don't know when the tenants moved in. We don't know if there's been a vacancy. And I kept saying to Vito Muscacciolo at HPD, why don't you just ask the tenants? They can tell you when they moved in. So they started doing that. And guess what? We now know that landlords haven't been doing this. So we've basically lost 20 years of the fight of permanently removing.
Thank you. I'm so sorry, Mr. Shasher. Just we're a little behind schedule and short on time, but this is extremely helpful. I want to thank you so much for your testimony. Okay, I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Council Members Hudson, Aviles, and Narcisse, and Councilmember Feliz, and I would now like to turn it over to Councilmember Carlina Rivera, who is joining us remotely.
Good morning, everyone. And I just want to thank Matt Shasher, because every time he is at the dais on a panel, I know that I learned something, and it just further, you know, just ignites this fire, this passion that we should all have to address this. Finally, we as legislators have that responsibility. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilmember Carlina Rivera, representing the vibrant communities of the east side of Manhattan. Thank you to the chairs for being so gracious and allowing me to speak very briefly. Just to say a few words about my bills being heard today. First, one regarding lead-based paint hazards in common areas of dwellings, and second, a bill in relation to the declaration of a public nuisance by HPD in connection with lead hazards. Children in New York City continue to needlessly suffer permanent neurological damage from exposure to lead in old paint, dust, and drinking water in their homes. And for the family that is here today, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for allowing us a little bit of insight into what you have been going through and how your family has been impacted. I hope that we can serve you and do something to really make sure this does not happen to another family again. And moreover, as you've heard, nearly 70% of these lead-poisoned children come from underserved neighborhoods. Black, Latino, and Asian children account for more than 80% of newly identified cases of lead poisoning in children under 6 years old. Exposure to even low levels of lead can result in severe repercussions for children under the age of 6. The city has made great strides over the past century to reduce exposure to lead, but there is more work to do. Since my days as a community organizer and housing advocate on the East Side, I've continuously advocated for stronger regulations for testing, enforcement, and remediation. And through my work in public service, I want to thank the advocates as well who are here. They've all helped strengthen landmark legislation that was passed decades ago. So we have lost time. We have to build the momentum back up again, and we must pass these bills, improve interagency coordination, and empower city agencies to intervene faster and more effectively. My legislation would further empower HPD to intervene in situations where lead-based hazards are present or suspected. So the package of legislation we're hearing today is about getting lead out of homes once and for all, and to stand up for those who are still being exposed to and impacted by lead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Rivera, and might I say, as a fellow new mom, you look great. Peek the baby. Thank you so much, Councilmember. Okay, and now we'll turn it over to the administration. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'll just administer the oath. Please raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before these committees, and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you. You may begin when ready.
Good morning, Chair Schulman, Chair Sanchez, and members of the Committee on Health and Housing and Buildings. I'm Andrew Fasciano, Assistant Commissioner for the Bureau of Environmental Disease and Injury Prevention at the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today. The Health Department has long been at the vanguard of efforts nationally to reduce elevated blood lead levels, or EBLLs, in children, beginning in 1960 when the New York City Board of Health made us the first jurisdiction in the country to prohibit the use of lead paint in residential settings, which was 18 years before it was banned by the federal government in 1978. I would like to provide some background about how EBLLs occur and describe the city's current multi-pronged approach in preventing and responding to EBLLs. Lead paint remains the most commonly identified potential exposure source for New York City children. The mechanism for lead exposure is typically ingestion, so it is very young children, especially those under the age of 3, who are at most at risk. Because young children are at a critical stage of physical development and absorb lead at higher rates than older children and adults, nutritional deficits and developmentally appropriate hand-to-mouth activity can put them at risk. It is also important to understand how EBLLs are treated in children. Except at very high levels rarely seen in New York City today, the body naturally excretes lead over time on its own. Typically, the only treatment is to remove the ongoing sources of lead exposure so that the body can do its work. The city's robust approach to protecting children from EBLLs is twofold. First, prevent lead exposure, and second, when a child has an EBLL, respond quickly and comprehensively. The response begins when the Health Department receives notification of a child with an EBLL via a daily electronic download from New York State, and we respond quickly with a detailed and thoughtful intervention to ensure the safety of that child. This intervention begins with a Health Department nurse quickly coordinating ongoing care with the family and the child's health care provider, working in tandem until the child's blood lead level adequately declines. At the same time, we dispatch an inspector to conduct a thorough risk assessment and inspection of the child's home. The inspectors, who are highly trained and EPA certified, begin with a comprehensive interview with the family to better understand the child's risk factors for lead exposure. They then inspect the apartment for lead-based paint hazards using a piece of equipment called an X-ray fluorescence, or XRF, device. If the device detects lead in paint, the health department issues the property owner a commissioner's order to abate, and we will follow up to ensure compliance. Our focus, regardless of whether the child lives in public or private housing, is to identify and assess every address where a child spends at least 5 hours per week so that we can mitigate any and all potential sources of lead exposure. The dual focus on primary and secondary prevention is in large part due to the leadership of the City Council with the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Act, also known as Local Law 1 of 2004, being one of the most important and impactful laws on lead in the country. Because of the city's multifaceted approach in preventing EBL in children, there has been a 93% decline since 2005 in the number of children under the age of 6 with a blood lead level at or above 5 micrograms per deciliter. In 2021, there were almost 35,000 fewer children with EBLs than in 2005. This decrease is a testament to the Council's passage of a strong local law that helps prevent childhood lead exposure to lead-based paint and the dedicated work of the city agencies represented here today. Despite this progress, we recognize that there is no safe level of lead and that we must continue our collective work to further reduce the number of children with EBLLs. Over the last few years, the city has not lost focus on this goal despite all of the challenges that the COVID-19 public health emergency has presented, including a drop in blood lead testing among children. To address this issue, the department has implemented a multifaceted approach to raise awareness about the importance of timely blood lead screening. On an ongoing monthly basis, the health department matches birth records to its blood lead database to determine which children up to the age of 3 are due to get their blood tested for lead as required by law. We reach out to these families individually to remind them of the need to get a lead test, both by text message and by mail. The department also sends guidance to over 30,000 healthcare providers annually, reminding them of the testing requirements. We conduct outreach and education for families, and we collaborate with Medicaid managed care programs to identify children due for lead testing, alerting their healthcare providers. We've also conducted a blood lead testing media campaign in multiple languages aimed at raising awareness among parents and healthcare providers on testing children. And we are currently developing reports that healthcare providers can use to identify which patients are due for a blood lead test. They'll be able to send text messages and recall letters to these patients, notifying them of the need for lead testing. We are eager to work with Council on additional mechanisms to reach providers, parents, and caregivers to further increase blood lead testing. Over the last few years, the department has worked hard to implement new local laws and lead-free NYC initiatives in collaboration with other city agencies that will help drive further progress in eliminating childhood lead exposure. The department continues to act instead of waiting for the federal government, using our power under the Health Code to establish the most protective thresholds for lead-based paint and lead and dust that triggers lead abatement in the country. These changes allow the department to order the permanent elimination of more lead hazards, furthering our efforts to help drive children's blood lead levels down. We continue to take proactive steps to reduce lead exposure, including offering inspections to families with newborns and conducting sweeps to remove hazardous consumer products contaminated with lead. The department recently took another important step by further lowering the blood lead level that triggers home investigations for all children under the age of 18, lowering the blood lead threshold to 3.5 micrograms per deciliter. We proactively started this work in March 2022 while simultaneously petitioning the Board of Health to update the health code to reflect this new lower threshold. We are happy to report that the board adopted the change in October 2022, making New York City one of the few jurisdictions in the country to act at such a low threshold. We're proud that we've been able to achieve so much during these especially difficult times. We've made great progress and are ready and eager to continue to drive down the number of children with EBLLs. I would now like to turn to the bills under consideration today. Introduction 200 will require the department to submit to the mayor and the speaker of the council and make publicly available on the health department's website a quarterly report of the number of objections filed by multiple dwelling owners to health department lead abatement orders. While fewer than 10% of all of our orders are contested, the health department supports the intent of this bill and would like to work with council to identify the best approach and frequency for providing this information to the public. Introduction 750 would direct the department to work with HPD to identify at least 200 residential buildings each year that may pose a risk of lead exposure to children. The department already works with HPD in this regard, helping them to prioritize 200 buildings using a building lead index. Preconsidered Bill 3347 would require HPD to declare a lead hazard a public nuisance when the health department issues a commissioner's order to correct or remediate a condition related to lead hazards. The health department works closely with HPD to ensure building owner compliance with our departmental orders. We are currently reviewing this bill with HPD and look forward to discussions after the hearing. Preconsidered Bill 3348 would require the health department to provide a referral for any child to determined to have an elevated blood level to the Committee on Special Education of the Department of Education for a neuropsychological or neurodevelopmental evaluation in order to determine the child's eligibility for special education services, including the development of an individualized education program. The Health Department currently provides information to families about the Committee on Special Education. We are reviewing the bill with our DOE colleagues and look forward to discussions after the hearing. Having spent my entire 25-year career focused on reducing childhood lead exposures, I'm committed to keeping this as a priority. I look forward to working with City Council and city partners to ensure that we remain at the forefront of efforts to protect our youngest New Yorkers. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I would be happy to address your questions.
Good morning, Chair Sanchez and Schulman, and members of the Committees on Housing and Buildings and Health. My name is Anne Marie Santiago, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of the Office of Enforcement and Neighborhood Services at the New York City Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development. Thank you for the invitation to testify today on the city's implementation of laws related to lead that were passed over the past several years, and to provide comments on newly introduced legislation regarding lead-based paint compliance. Local Law 1 of 2004, which focuses on lead in paint, is the country's most stringent lead enforcement law. The most common source of lead-based paint exposure is in the home, which is why the most robust lead-based paint obligations in Local Law 1 rest on property owners of older residential buildings in New York City. For residential buildings built before 1960, Local Law 1 presumes that there is lead-based paint in dwelling units where a child under 6 resides and in the common areas of such buildings, although the regulations do not apply to owner-occupied units in 1 or 2 family homes. While some sections of Local Law 1 apply only where a child under the age of 6 resides, those most vulnerable to the negative effects of lead, other obligations apply to all units in common areas of such buildings. Since 2019, HPD has implemented at least 10 major changes to enhance both reactive and proactive enforcement of Local Law 1. This includes meeting the new requirements passed under Local Laws 64, 66, and 70 of 2019, and Local Laws 28, 29, and 31 of 2020. Due to the breadth of the changes, I will not be able to speak in depth about each change today, but hope to provide information on the most significant ones. For a description of our general processes of HPD inspections and data about these topics, I would refer you to the annual lead report available on HPD's website. First, the city expanded the number of children protected by lead laws. This expansion of the protection was accomplished by 2 changes: extending protections to families renting in 1 and 2 family homes, and expanding protections to children who routinely spend at least 10 hours a week in an apartment that they may not live in. Second, the city lowered the levels at which lead in paint triggers remediation and appropriate cleaning. Lead-based paint was defined before December 1st, 2021 as paint with a lead content of 1.0 milligrams per centimeter squared. Based on federal approval of an X-ray fluorescence machine, an XRF, able to accurately test for lead in paint at 0.5, HPD implemented a change required by local law that changed this definition. Lead-based paint is now defined as paint with a lead content of 0.5, which means that paint with a lower level of lead will now test positive. Together, these two changes have resulted in an increase in the number of lead-based paint hazard violations issued by HPD. A violation is issued for each room that has a hazard, which means that the paint is peeling. In fiscal year 22, HPD issued 15,448 lead-based paint hazard violations, an increase of approximately 2,000 over fiscal year 19, the last pre-COVID fiscal year, and an increase of approximately 6,000 violations over fiscal year 21. Of the violations issued in fiscal year 22, 12% were issued in 1- and 2-family homes, and 16% were issued in apartments where no child lives, but a child routinely spends 10 or more hours in the unit. More than 4,000 violations have been issued for lead-based paint readings only in the 0.5 to 0.9 range. This is 35% of the total number of tested violations issued. Taken in context, then, this increase in the number of violations does not reflect a worsening of the problem of lead-based paint hazards, but an increase in our protection of the children from lead. Again, New York City now has the most protective standard of any city in the United States. In addition to these changes related to child-occupied units, HPD began to audit properties for lead-based paint records based on the Building Lead Index. In addition to the audits we already conducted related to the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, DOHMH's, Commissioner's Order to Abate, or CODAs. We have conducted audits and proactive inspections of over 500 buildings just this fiscal year, sending out a 6-page record production order to properties identified through the BLI as having some level of risk of lead-based paint hazards or due to a CODA. Owners are expected to have 10 years of records when we conduct these audits, as required by the law. While we are finding that it is rare that owners have records dating back 10 years, we have recently updated our database to be able to collect information so we can determine if compliance is improving. We will also soon have 2 years worth of data, or 3 years, about selecting buildings for the Building Lead Index, and hope to analyze how effective that index is at identifying buildings that actually have lead-based paint hazards. Focusing our resources on ensuring owners are complying right now and going forward is key to our current enforcement. We acknowledge that rules on notices, investigations, turnover, and record keeping are complex and require significant administrative work from property owners, and so we committed significant time and effort to providing information and making educational opportunities available to owners and managing agents. Since 2019, we have created webinars which cover details of 8 distinct topics, ranging from the basics to specific topics regarding the changes, such as a webinar targeted to owners of 1- and 2-family homes, to how to comply with the annual notice, investigation, and turnover requirements, how to keep records of that compliance, how to comply with HPD violations, and how to ensure safe work practices. Since initiating the webinars, we have had over 3,000 participants attend the live trainings with extremely positive feedback. On May 2nd, we will be starting a new cycle of webinars, presenting lead-based paint basics, an overview of New York City's requirements for building owners. Within days of announcing the webinar, over 500 participants had registered. We encourage all of you to take a live webinar or watch one of the recordings on our website. In addition to education, we also realized that owners required additional resources. We added a link to the Department of Housing and Urban Development's visual assessment training. We sent and continue to send multiple email bulletins each year as new requirements are implemented, and to remind owners of their annual obligations. These are translated into multiple languages and are available on our website. We have developed and provided sample record-keeping documents. We engaged in an outreach campaign around the theme Get Ahead of Lead, which launched in November 2019 for multiple dwelling properties and continued in early 2020 with a particular focus on 1- and 2-family properties. This campaign ran in 8 languages on bus shelters, storefronts, newspapers, and social media in 19 zip codes with high rates of children with elevated blood levels. We ran the campaign again in 2022 for all properties, and we're always open to ideas from our partners at the council about additional avenues to communicate with property owners. We have also invested in education and outreach for residents, including through tenant resource fairs, our HPD mobile outreach van, and lead information in our ABCs of housing. In October 2022, we tried something new. Partnering with DOHMH and the Department of Environmental Protection, we initiated the first multi-agency outreach campaign for National Lead Poisoning Prevention Week. We are planning for a more successful event this year. As always, we are willing to meet people where they are, including working with council members to schedule a mobile van and co-sponsored events in your districts to help educate tenants. Although HPD's direct litigation of lead-based paint requirements has been limited by both the challenges facing housing court in general and the staffing challenges that city agencies are facing in hiring and retaining attorneys, we have, through the end of June 2022, obtained consent orders and civil penalties against almost 100 buildings for the failure to comply with record-keeping requirements of Local Law 1. In one settlement agreement with a major landlord, months of litigation resulted in $82,000 in civil penalties, a consent order to correct over 80 lead-based paint violations across 6 Brooklyn buildings impacting 285 homes, and an order to comply with all other lead-based paint requirements. We have supported legal action initiated by the New York City Law Department, which included lead-based paint compliance requirements. We have also supported and continue to support actions by the New York State Attorney General's office, which negotiated settlements with 2 major landlords covering more than 16,000 apartments to bring landlords into compliance and to resolve existing open lead-based paint hazard violations. As a result of one settlement, the AG is supporting the work of the Center for New York City Neighborhoods to conduct outreach to property owners of 1- and 2-family homes to inform them about the new lead compliance requirements that apply if they rent their units. An important component to removing the risk of lead exposure is for landlords to remove or permanently cover lead paint or replace components or fixtures painted with lead paint when a tenant vacates and before the unit is re-rented, also referred to as turnover. The work is required in between occupancies because it is the time when such work presents the least risk of exposure to tenants. Generally, this work requires replacing painted doors and windows, although paint removal is an acceptable method as well if the surfaces are not deteriorated. Anyone can perform the turnover visual inspection to look for lead-based paint hazards such as deteriorated paint or teeth mark on chewable surfaces, but appropriate certified professionals must use safe work practices to conduct any abatement work. Any XRF testing performed to determine if a painted surface is or is not lead-based paint must be performed by an EPA-certified lead inspector or risk assessor. HPD issues 2 types of violations related to turnover. In one case, only as a result of an audit inspection, the violation is issued because HPD has confirmed that a tenant has moved in within the past 10 years and the owner has not provided any documentation to support that any investigational work was completed upon turnover to identify and remove lead-based paint as required. There is no requirement that a child under 6 resides in the unit for HPD to issue this type of turnover violation. In the second instance, a violation is issued when HPD finds on any components either test positive for lead or is presumed, In the second instance, a violation is issued when HPD finds on any type of inspection that there is a lead-based paint hazard and one of the door or window components either tests positive for lead or is presumed to have lead. In fiscal year 21 and 22, 12,500 violations were issued related to turnover, of which 87% were related to audit inspections and issued because the owner failed to provide the documents, and 13% were issued to a finding of a hazard. Local Law 31 of 2020 expanded the obligation of owners to perform investigations. Within 1 year of occupancy by a child under 6, the owner must have all painted surfaces tested for lead-based paint. In units where there is no child, the testing must be completed before August 2025. The law requires the property owner to provide the results to the tenant. HPD continues to try to educate owners about this and prepare for August 2025. At that time, if the property owner is unable to provide the XRF testing when audited, appropriate violations will be issued. Everything I have discussed this morning is about changes over the past 4 years. During that time, including throughout COVID, except for a brief period after March 2020, HPD has continued to conduct inspections, issue violations as criteria for those violations change, as I've discussed, process certifications of correction, postponement requests, and contestations of these violations. We continue to work hand in hand, especially with DOHMH, on lead-based paint-related issues, even as they expand their reach of their interventions, as Assistant Commissioner Fasciano just described. When landlords don't act and the tenants allow HPD access, we have continued to conduct emergency repairs in response to HPD violations and DOHMH commissioner's orders, hiring appropriately certified firms and conducting dust wipes to ensure that areas remain free of lead dust. As with all emergency repairs, any work completed by an HPD vendor is billed to the property. We continue to encourage and process lead-based paint exemptions submitted by property owners. I would like to recognize our staff, some of who are sitting here today, for the work they have continued to do each day to protect our children. Now to turn to the legislation being proposed here today. Intro 5 requires additional records related to XRF testing be provided whenever an owner certifies a lead-based paint hazard violation. When certifying a lead-based paint hazard violation, owners are already required to provide HPD with 6 documents, including sworn statements, certification showing the firm was approved by the federal government to do lead-based paint abatement, and dust wipe results. Requiring more documentation which is not directly related to the hazard for which HPD has issued the violation will distract from the main goal of the violations being issued, which is to immediately address the hazard at hand. The additional documents will not assist with addressing the hazard. Considering these factors, HPD is not supportive of this legislation. Intro 6, which requires property owners to complete turnover requirements while a unit is still occupied, runs the risk of creating active lead hazards where none exist at the time of such inspection. When the turnover requirement was created, the intent was that meeting such requirement would be safest and most efficient when an apartment was vacant. HPD is not aware of any factors that would have changed that assessment, so our concern around doing this work with tenants in occupancy remains the same. Intro 193, which requires owners to conduct XRF testing in common areas and requires HPD to inspect and issue lead-based paint hazard violations for common areas. Paint in public areas in pre-1960 buildings is presumed to be lead-based paint unless an owner can provide evidence otherwise, which means that owners are required to address any peeling paint in common areas using safe work practice. Paint in these areas, where children generally do not spend a significant amount of time, is not generally identified as a significant source of lead exposure. Requiring testing from owners will not increase their existing responsibilities to maintain paint in common areas, and the resources that would be required for HPD to inspect, issue violations for, and correct peeling paint in public areas would be one of the largest new needs HPD would face, and raises concerns about focusing resources on an area which will not yield a high return in terms of the impact on reducing exposure. Regarding Intro 750, we believe that the goals of this bill can be met by enhancing existing processes that can be modified or expanded. At this point in time, especially given the fact that COVID not only delayed enforcement resources, but also affected the ability of owners to address and comply with requirements like turnover and apartment XRF testing for most of 2020 and much of 2021, we are focused on trying to assist owners to come into compliance with all of the existing rules and regulations. We want to ensure that our enforcement resources and owners' financial resources remain targeted to conditions and circumstances that reduce the most immediate exposures to lead-based paint hazards. Some of the goals of Intro 750 can be met by enhancing existing HPD processes, and we are committed to working with the Council to continue to reduce exposure to lead-based paint, and I look forward to productive conversations as we explore new ways to protect children. We are still reviewing pre-considered Intro T 2023-3347 as we receive late notice on the language. On initial review, the bill proposes to impose on HPD's discretion by mandating that HPD declare a public nuisance when DOHMH issues a CODA. HPD is already responsible to audit the property, inspect the building for lead-based paint hazards, and if the owner doesn't address the hazards identified by DOHMH or HPD, to do the necessary lead-based paint work. As I mentioned, HPD may also seek enforcement in housing court for existing violations issued in response to these audits, and we work with our city and state partners to enforce that. Under this bill, HPD would have to additionally create an administrative process that would drain agency resources without improving our enforcement capability. As I conclude my testimony today, we want to make two messages clear. One, as a property owner of a building built prior to 1960, you are a vital partner we rely on to make New York City lead-based paint free. Know your responsibilities, seek assistance if you need guidance on how to comply with the law, and work with your tenants to ensure their safety. To tenants, if you have a child under 6 and you see cracked, chipped, peeling, chewed on, or otherwise compromised painted surfaces in your apartment, let the landlord know and call 311 if the condition is not corrected safely or quickly. Learn what you can do to keep your child safe, including getting your 1- and 2-year-olds tested, and please seek assistance from any of the agencies here today if you have additional questions. I want to thank the Council for continuing to keep this important issue at the forefront of our work, and I trust that we can continue to engage productively in using our resources in the most efficient way possible. Thank you, and we look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Deputy Commissioner. Thank you both for your testimony today. Okay, so to begin with questions. First up is hot off the press. The administration has released an update to the Lead-Free NYC report that was released several years ago and announced the creation of a new position of a lead czar, which will be served by Jasmine Blake. So the first question that I have to ask on behalf of the public is one about trust. The 2019 and 2020 reforms came about because despite Local Law 1 of 2004 requiring owner self-inspection, requiring lead abatement at vacancy, and requiring safe work practices, the agencies, the administration had not been inspecting these units, and exposure had been rampant and continued to be rampant. But additionally, the context in which lead reforms came in several years ago was in the context of NYCHA, falsifying documents, lying to the public about the training and qualifications of workers within the agency. So in this context, there is a lot of mistrust. And Jasmine Blake, who has been appointed as the new lead czar, was a part of that previous administration. And so the first question is, how will the administration be able to gain the public's trust in the context of this new announcement?
Thank you, Council Member. So I from everything that Assistant Commissioner Fasciano has said today, from everything that I've said today, and I know you will have questions for the other agencies that have implemented laws related to lead recently, you will hear a lot of the dedication that all of these players have to making sure that our children are safe. I think we've come a long way, again, even through COVID, to have implemented so many changes, and again, not just HPD, but across the agencies. We are really moving forward and are dedicated to this. The appointment of a lead czar, I think, will move us forward to continue the previous administration's focus on lead. And we don't need you've referenced some scandals that happen. We don't need a scandal to keep us going. I think we are all fully 100% behind this mission.
Thank you so much. And I have great personal respect for Jasmine Blake. I think she is one of the smartest, most brilliant public servants that we have. But it's important that we talk about these issues and make sure that the public is aware that we're mindful, we're paying attention, and we want to have a transparency and accountability from our agencies as we strive to keep our children safe. So moving from there, do we have information? I know this is an announcement that came at 9:56 a.m. This morning, but do we have information about how how the czar is going to interact with agencies? Is it someone? I know she presently works for the chief housing officer. Is the role going to sit in the mayor's office? How is the coordination going to work? And will there be staff resources allocated for this work?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I am not privy to the details of the creation of the office. However, Ms. Blake is in touch with all of us, and as we move forward, I'm sure we will keep the council apprised of the answers for your questions.
Thank you so much. This is, I think, in general, in sum, a positive announcement. We need focused attention on lead prevention, on lead hazard abatements. We know that this is an issue that spans many agencies: DEP, DOP, DOE. Almost every city agency, right, has the responsibility of keeping our children safe, and so it's going to be very important to have this coordination. So I want to turn now to audits. And particularly, the first question I have is regarding the 200 buildings per year on the Building Lead Index. How are these selected? What is the current methodology? I know you're going to be assessing the success of the identification of buildings here, but can you share a little bit about the methodology?
Certainly. So thank you, Council Member. The law itself indicates 4 categories of buildings that we look for in the Building Lead Index. Most of the buildings, more than 50% of the buildings, are selected because they have had previous HPD lead-based paint violations issued to them. So we take that group of buildings within a certain period of time, and we select, of the 200 each year, about 60% come from a pool of buildings, again, where the base criteria is that they have had lead-based paint hazard violations previously issued. The second category is buildings that have had a lot of mold and leak violations issued. Again, we're only looking at pre-1960 buildings because the thought there is that, a lot of deteriorated surfaces are associated with mold and leaks. And so it would be quite common in those buildings as well to find peeling paint. The second and third categories, the third and fourth categories have to do with the whole pool of buildings built before 1960. And we work with the Department of Health to prioritize based on areas that have high incidences of elevated blood lead levels. So those are the 4 categories we choose from to make up the entire pool. I think we have some new information over the years now that we're doing more audits, now that we're issuing turnover violations, other types of things that we may want to consider in selecting buildings for that index.
What are some of those other factors that you are considering to add?
As I mentioned, the turnover violations is one. So currently that initial pool of 60% is based on the hazard violation, so where we actually find peeling paint. Where we issue turnover for, especially in cases where there are children under 6 and it's peeling on the doors or windows, those are the buildings I think we might want to consider adding. Hearing from the council, a lot of the concern about location might be something else that we would like to factor in selecting the buildings. Again, we already work closely with the health department to try and narrow to the areas that they believe are high incidences of elevated blood lead levels, but we may want to do that more strategically.
Thank you, and it's necessary, right?
Mm-hmm.
The concentration, I said 65% earlier, I meant 45% of elevated blood lead levels being in the Bronx, coming from children in the Bronx. These concentrations that are racialized, that are income-based, we have to make sure that we're factoring that in and protecting those children who are still at greatest risk. I want to acknowledge that we were joined by Councilmember Dinowitz and Menon. Okay, so again, per local law 70 of 2019, you are auditing 200 buildings per year, and these are separate from the audits mandated after a DOHMH commissioner order to abate. So these audits are required for self-inspection and for turnover abatement requirements. So, one of the things that we heard earlier in the testimony from Matthew Shasher, leading expert in lead prevention, is that 92% of buildings subject to the BLI audit resulted in violations for failure to conduct annual inspections. Doesn't this indicate compliance citywide is still extremely poor? And what other measures do you believe are needed to improve this compliance with annual self-inspection requirements?
Thank you, Council Member. So as I mentioned in my testimony, the violations that we issue are because owners do not have 10 years worth of records. That does not indicate that the owner is not currently or recently doing the annual notice or inspections. And I think this is where, we would like to explore how we can either capture the data better, report it differently, or work on that 10-year requirement. Requiring documents to be kept for that long, they may be lost in transfer of the property, they may just not have been doing it 10 years ago. But as of now, they are. After all of our education, after all of our outreach, that is unfortunately not going to be reflected in the number of violations because we do take the 10-year requirement so seriously. And it's got to be every document. And understand that record keeping requires documents on annual notice, annual investigation, any lead work you've done in the past 10 years, any violations you've had in the past 10 years. It's quite a voluminous amount of documents that we require from owners, and not everyone who may be doing the work is that great at record keeping.
So what are we seeing with record keeping? Is it a yes or no question that HPD is tracking, or do we know that they have 3 years or 4 years of records?
And thank you. And as I mentioned again in my testimony, we have recently put in place the ability to capture more granular data about how long people have been keeping records. And so we hope to be looking at that data soon to answer exactly that question, to see, are people coming in with at least the most recent year's worth of records? Or are we still in a place where no records are being provided? So I think that will inform us into next steps about how to move forward to improve this process, both for us in terms of information and for property owners, so that they understand when they can have violations dismissed. When a violation is issued for record keeping right now, they can't have that violation dismissed until they provide us with 10 years of records, which means you shouldn't expect to see a lot of cases being closed, violations being closed soon, if 10 years ago owners weren't keeping those records.
Got it. That's really interesting, because that's one of the data points that stuck out, is how many notice of violations are still open. And so with respect to the document retention or the document requirements, what recommendations does HPD have to get a more realistic sense of improvement?
We're discussing a few internally ideas about how to address that, and I think we would love to come to the council, hear any of ideas that you might have, and try to be able to move forward with a way to both kind of be able to publicly report this better and show that owners are complying if indeed that has happened, which, due to all of the education and outreach that I indicated, we're hoping to see an improvement there. So that's something on our agenda to speak with you about in the future.
Okay, thank you. Of 790 buildings subject to the BLI audits in the last 3 years, 758 were issued a violation for failure to provide documents. HPD, as you alluded to in your testimony, pursued litigation in 118 cases in that time. So what happens with the properties that do not face civil action, and what are the ways that HPD is trying to ascertain compliance?
So the 118 cases included buildings audited through both the BLI and the Commissioner's order to abate, just to clarify. So 33 cases specifically were related to BLI audits. Those violations will remain open for the properties. As I mentioned, we are in the process of onboarding additional attorneys, and I'm happy to report that actually 2 were just approved by OMB. We're waiting for an additional 2. And with these attorneys on board, and as we continue to work with our city and state partners, we're going to continue to bring litigation against owners to make sure that they are providing those documents, and doing those processes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Caban, and allergies, by the way, that's the sniffles. I'm going to ask one more question and then turn it over to my co-chair. And so this question is, in the annual Local Law 1 report, HPD reports the number of buildings audited and the number of apartments in audited buildings that were issued violations for turnover, and the violations for lead-based paint hazards. Why doesn't HPD provide the total number of buildings among those audited in which turnover violations have been issued? Can you provide these numbers?
Yes, we can provide those numbers, council member. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair Sanchez. So my questions mostly are for the Department of Health, but either one of you can respond. So the first question I have is, we heard from a member of the public today that that lead is airborne. So, and then I'm hearing also that you can only get it from picking up something and ingesting it. So can you provide further explanation?
Sure, thank you for the question, Chair. So when we talk about lead-based paint hazards, what we're really talking about is the dust that is created when those paint chips become like pulverized and they become ground up. So there's a direct relationship between lead-based paint and lead dust. So the typical route of ingestion for lead from construction dust or unsafe work is still ingestion. So children, the dust settles on the floor. Very young children explore the world via hand-to-mouth activity, and they are also just crawling and putting their hands in their mouth. So it's not atypical that children are eating paint chips, just to clarify that. So for us, it's not necessarily an inhalation hazard where people are breathing in lead. It's more the settled dust that results from construction activities or just failure to maintain paint.
So if there is construction, like Ms. Cooper, who was here earlier, is it possible that that lead is in the air and can be taken into somebody's body?
Certainly there is potential for exposure, but that's if they were to enter a work site. Lead being a metal is relatively heavy and settles quickly in the air. So our bigger concern is the residual dust that remains after work stops, and if there's improper containment of that dust or improper cleanup at the end of a job.
So, all right, so now this question is for HPD. So if there's construction right on top of a residential property, similar to what was described earlier today, do you conduct oversight of that?
Thank you, council member. I will defer that question to the Department of Buildings,
Okay.
Which would respond, or the Department of Health may respond if the complaint is specifically about dust.
So I can start with the response because
Go ahead.
Department of Health does respond to tenant complaints related to unsafe work, meaning that the contractor is either creating dust hazards in common areas or their apartment, and we will do an inspection if a child less than 18 resides in that building. And if we identify settled dust, we will collect samples to determine if that dust has above the thresholds allowed for lead and dust. So we do enforcement. We respond to hundreds of complaints a year from constituents reporting unsafe work practices. In addition, we do a lot of other proactive work to try to monitor work that is ongoing.
Okay, thank you. Doctor, in your testimony, you said that to address the issue of the number of children with EBLLs, you've implemented a multifaceted approach to raise awareness about the importance of timely blood lead screenings. So my question is, do you send letters to providers to ask them to do that?
So we provide messaging related about the importance of blood lead testing to providers through the citywide immunization registry. The immunization registry is a portal that healthcare providers use to report immunization. So there's widespread usage among the healthcare provider community, and every time they pull up a child's record to report to add a shot or an immunization, they are given information about whether or not that child is overdue for a blood lead test. In addition, we actually send letters, and we actually have conversations with healthcare providers who manage children with elevated blood lead levels, reminding them of the frequency which they should recall the child for blood lead level monitoring.
Has the city done an assessment of the cost of having children ingest lead and having to treat them in terms of what that costs the city as opposed to the abatement pieces of it? Has there been any cost evaluation done?
As part of some of our grant requirements, we have done a cost-benefit analysis in terms of childhood lead exposure, in terms of there are a lot of different inputs to those costs, so we have done those. We've not done public-facing documents, but we have run those.
Can we ask that you submit those to the committee? We'd like to see that information.
We can take it back and discuss.
Thank you. How many permanent positions are dedicated to lead abatement programs at DOHMH?
We have a program budgeted for over 129 full-time positions.
Are there any vacancies in those programs?
There are vacancies in the programs. We have a vacancy rate that are similar to other city programs, but we are actually making good progress recently in filling those vacancies, attending job fairs, a lot of different events. I'd say once a week we're going in attempts to recruit individuals to fill those vacancies.
Can you tell us how many vacancies there are?
We have 39 vacancies, about 20 to 25%, which is similar to vacancy rates.
And so you said you're doing job fairs. Do you have a thought on how long it'll take to ramp up on those positions, or?
To be clear, the vacancies we have are spread throughout the program. They're not impacting our ability to rapidly respond to children with elevated blood levels, but the health department's programs have vacancies in nurse lines and inspector lines, but we are making good progress in filling those vacancies.
Okay. DOHMH, thank you. DOHMH reports that the rate of children with elevated blood lead levels has remained essentially flat for the last 3 years, an average of 10.9 per thousand tested. In contrast, immediately following Local Law 1, there was a decline from 120.4 per thousand tested in 2005 to 13.6 per thousand tested in 2018. If steps are being taken to remediate lead hazards, shouldn't that number be decreasing, and why hasn't the decrease continued?
Thank you for the question. So the timeframes you're referencing, the last 3 years, were at during the COVID-19 public health emergency, and where there were extensive changes in healthcare utilization, in which it makes it very difficult for us to say whether or not those are real trends, real flatlining, or whether or not those are just a byproduct of that time period. We would need a couple of more years of data to see if we are truly flatlining, but we're not waiting to collect that data. As I mentioned in my testimony, we are taking proactive steps. We've reduced the threshold at which we'll act in children's blood lead levels to 3.5. We are now we'll proactively go to buildings with lead hazards that have newborns and offer those families inspections in the hopes of trying to prevent exposure. And we've instituted the most protective thresholds for lead in paint and lead in dust in the nation.
Okay, in 2022, after pressure from public health advocates, DOHMH adopted the CDC's new reference level of 3.5 micrograms, meaning any test results at or above that level automatically trigger an investigation. However, the 2022 DOHMH annual report to the New York City Council on elevated blood lead levels still cites 5 micrograms per deciliter as the standard, as well as on the DOHMH website. When will DOHMH update the reference level to 3.5 micrograms as promised?
To be clear, the 2022 report to the City Council reflects 2021 data. We implemented this change in March 2022, and it's our expectation to provide data on the children identified at this new blood level threshold in future reports.
Okay. If the reference level has already been implemented, has DOHMH seen the number of children eligible for city-funded services increase?
Yes, we have seen an increase in the number of children who are become eligible since we've lowered that blood level to 3.5. We've not seen it to the same magnitude of when we dropped from a blood level of 15 to 5. This is a smaller increment in blood level, but we have seen an increase in the number of children who would now receive care coordination and environmental services from the health department.
So as a result of COVID, how many children have been identified to have lead poisoning following the end of lockdown measures?
So again, it's difficult for us to make any broad statements based on the data reported during the COVID-19 public health emergency, but we have not seen an increase in the number of rate of children in 2021 compared to 2019. So, but without making any statements to whether or not those numbers are trend data going forward. So we continue to monitor on a daily and monthly basis all reports of children with elevated blood load levels.
When do you expect the next round of data to be available?
That report will be submitted to the City Council in September 2023.
Okay. In 2018, New York State required all, this is a semi-DOE question, but the New York State required all public schools to test their drinking water sources at the tap. The initial properly conducted New York City assessment found that the vast majority of schools had at least one tap yielding water contaminated with lead above the EPA threshold for homes of 15 parts per million. The DOE largely remediated this problem over the next several years. Do you know, are you working with DOE on this issue, or should I wait for them to respond to this?
I would direct that question in specific numbers to John Shea.
Yeah, come on. So then I'll finish asking the question then. What is DOE currently doing to maintain compliance with this old standard, which is not based on health risk?
Sorry, but do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before these committees and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Council Member. John Shea, CEO of School Facilities for the Department of Education. So we have a very rigorous lead and water testing program. We actually come under the state law that covers all schools in New York State. And our action levels and the new updates have lower thresholds than under the previous law. So we now test all of our fixtures to 5 parts per billion, and all of our buildings on a 3-year cycle, which is now from a 5-year cycle, and that is all of the testing that we do for water.
Do you plan to move to 2 parts per billion at some point?
If the law changes, we will certainly follow what the new law requires.
Okay, those are all the questions that I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Co-Chair. So I wanna follow up. We're asking a lot of questions about document retention, but self-inspection is also an issue. And the self-inspection audits of self-inspection show a really high failure rate of over 90%. So I want to preface this by saying that it is a landlord responsibility to ensure that there's no lead in the units, right? We are on the same page about that. But we rely on, HPD is almost like the police for housing quality, right? We rely on you to hold them accountable. And so we're not seeing document retention, we're not seeing self-inspection. How does HPD understand that failure to self-inspect?
Thank you, Councilmember. And then they really are the sides of the same coin, right? Because the only way that we know whether owners self-inspect is if they keep records that they did so. And that is a very detailed record that we're looking for. So if you look on our website, we have a sample record-keeping document for keeping track of your inspections. That requires that you have kept track of all the annual notices you sent out, that you know who responded to your annual notice, that if a tenant responded that they have a child under 6, that you did the investigation and what you found on that investigation. If the tenant did not respond to the annual notice, many tenants do not, that you went and you knocked on the door, you attempted to get access. We ask for generally at least 2 times that you've tried to do that, and that you've documented who did that, when they did it, so that we know that you've done it. And if we receive those documents, of course, we can verify that with tenants, but without receiving those documents from the owner, we can't independently verify whether or not they've attempted to do the investigation. So this is a difficult job for us. I think, again, record keeping is not everyone's strong suit in terms of, especially for smaller property owners. I think we have, concerns about them keeping all of these records. And so they're closely tied. You'll see that the number of violations for failure to inspect is probably pretty close to the number for violations for failure to keep records.
Thank you. I do want to push back on record keeping not being everyone's strong suit. Deal with it, right? We're owners of properties, and you don't lose your title, right? We all file taxes every year. We all keep various kinds of records. This is as important as anything else, more important.
And we absolutely agree with you, Councilmember, which is why we've tried to make this easier for owners by indicating exactly what it is, what type of records we're looking for.
Thank you. I want to turn it over to the co-chair for.
Yeah, I just want to, DOHMH, I just want to move back for a second I want to say that the DOHMH website should be updated with the 3.5 micrograms figure, which is separate from the reports that you submit, so it's important for the public to know the correct figure.
On our website? You will
Yeah,
take a
on the
look? Sure,
website.
definitely.
Yes. Thank you.
Just turn it off. Thank you, Councilmember Shulman. Okay, so yes, let's absolutely hold folks accountable for the record retention and for record keeping and all of that, because we need to know this information and we need to make sure that we're driving down these rates. So a couple of other questions about turnover. The city's lead laws require that on turnover, pre-1960 apartments, the owner must take certain measures to remediate or remove lead paint in the apartment, and failure to do so is a Class C immediately hazardous violation. According to open data records, HPD issued 12,771 violations in about 3,800 buildings, either for failure to document the turnover work or failure to complete the remediation itself. And only about 42% of those violations have been closed. What is happening with the violations that are still open?
Thank you, Councilmember. I believe the turnover documentation violations based on our audit, so based primarily on the record keeping, I think those are Class B violations. The violations issued for turnover related to when we find a hazard, those are Class C violations. And again, these are the violations which, as we have the ability to ramp up our litigation, some of the violations that we will be focusing on in terms of ensuring compliance by the owners.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. So I want to follow up on one of Councilmember Shulman's questions, or Chair Shulman's questions, about the change in DOHMH's reference level to 3.5 micrograms per deciliter. So understanding that you have updated the reference level, has DOHMH seen the number of children eligible for city-funded services change or increase?
Yeah, we have seen the number of children now eligible for city services increase. I don't have that number in front of us, but it as previously mentioned, is not in the order of the magnitude that we saw when we decreased the blood load level to 5.
Got it. What, do you have numbers? Do you have figures on this?
We will provide those data as part of our report to the City Council in September.
Got it. Okay, great, thank you. And then just following Ms. Cooper and her son's harrowing testimony about the impacts of lead poisoning as a 9-month-old for her child, which, by the way, Ms. Cooper, my baby is 9 months old, and just to hear what your son has been through is just really, it's really touching, and thank you for your testimony. We have to make sure that we do better. So one of the requirements that we understand is that owners are required to pre-notify the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene of work that would disturb a certain minimum threshold of paint, so that DOHMH can spot check for mandated safe work practices. Since Local Law 40 of 2021 went into effect, how many pre-notifications per year has DOHMH received?
So since Local Law 40 went into effect on the first year of implementation, we saw about 500 notifications received, and more recently in 2023, we've actually seen a market increase of an additional 500 notifications received.
And if DOB can share, what is the total amount of construction work that the DOB is privy to in the city of New York in a given year? Or is there data sharing between the Department of Buildings and the Department of Health?
So we do data sharing, not necessarily on the total number of buildings that are maybe applicable for this local authority, but we do share instances where each respective agency sees instances of unsafe work. So if DOB is, of course, in course of their doing their tenant protection inspections, notices, lack of containment of dust, they'll make a referral. And we have, when we encounter issues related to owner compliance or maybe continued lack of change in behavior in contractors and owners, we will refer to DOB so that they can see if this is a permitted job and where they can take additional actions if they're able to confirm our findings.
Thank you. There are 1 million buildings in the city of New York, as we well know, and multiply that by the number of units and individual spaces that are residential and that there could be children in and around. 500 or even 1,000 notifications for DOHMH does not seem like a high number. And so what are some ways that you believe DOHMH can more effectively monitor these safe work practices?
Sure. So we use a variety of approaches to proactively monitor safe work practices. It starts really with the work that we order. So the department orders abatement for lead-poisoned children, but also for some of our primary prevention work. We also respond to many hundreds of complaints from constituents who notice work in their building being done unsafely. We also, on a monthly basis, do proactive inspections with DOB, where we go out on jobs that are just starting up, where they have tenant protection plans in place, and they are reporting that the work is commencing. So we're doing proactive work based on that data. And what we try to do often is work with EPA. EPA is the federal agency who is tasked with certifying construction professionals to make sure that they're aware of the dangers of lead-based paint when they do this type of work. And we routinely refer to EPA instances where we find a contractor is not working safely.
Great. Thank you, Doctor. And one thing that has always struck me is the depth of investigation that DOHMH takes once a child has been identified as having an elevated blood lead level. And so can you share with us what is the trends in terms of building size, single family homes, 1, 2 family, 3 family homes versus larger buildings? Where are we seeing more higher rates of exposure in children?
So I don't have the breakdown in front of me. What I can say is the issue we're seeing is a large percentage of children live in privately owned housing. Just to make it clear that most children with lead exposure reside in privately owned housing. And the breakdown of the size of the building, we've not looked at it recently, but in the past it was consistent with the distribution of building size in New York City. So I think 65% were in multiple dwellings, 35. We will get back to you with more up-to-date information to see if those trends have changed over time. But we are seeing cases in owner-occupied buildings as well, 1, 2 families, but also in privately owned dwellings is generally where we're finding lead-poisoned children.
Thank you so much. And that's exactly where I wanted to go next is how are we reaching single-family homeowners, the small homeowners or the co-op owners? What outreach do we do to help them understand the dangers of lead-based paint and hazards for children? Right. And what supports can we offer or do we offer?
So when it comes to building owner engagement, we work closely with HPD because they are the subject matter experts in terms of how to engage building owners. So we've worked collaboratively with HPD to update a lot of our materials for building owners and contractors with all the different legislation that has been passed over the last few years. There's a lot of new requirements, and there's a lot of regulatory changes that we have put forth as well. So we've worked hand in hand with HPD to update those materials, and we work with HPD to provide trainings. Like Emery had said, we worked with them on National Lead Poisoning Prevention Week, but we also, as an agency, provide webinars, monthly trainings on lead prevention and also local law 1 requirements.
And I thank you for that question, Council Member, because it gives me a chance to expound on something I said in the testimony, which was that some of the money that the Attorney General's office received in settlement for a lead case was put towards supporting CNYCN, and you know them, that they are primarily focused on 1 to 4 family homes, supporting them in outreach to property owners around lead-based paint. And they started doing that really when the law changed and included those properties. And we can provide more information to you about, exactly what that outreach is and how many homeowners they've reached and intend to reach. So thank you.
Thank you. And I was also going to ask about the homeowner health desk and whether that's a resource for homeowners.
Correct.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And so next question is about remediation costs. As the chair of Housing and Buildings, one of the most common things that I hear from the real estate industry is the cost of remediating units at turnover. And so does HPD have an understanding of what it takes to remediate at turnover the typical unit in the city of New York?
Thank you for that question, council member. And we don't really, most of the work we do is emergency repair work, so it's spot work, right? It's addressing where the hazards are. And we have seen a steep increase in those costs, almost doubling, a little more than doubling since before COVID for the work that we do. Now, of course, we may be issuing for more components because of the drop in the level of lead, so it may not be exactly comparable, but our vendors who do lead work have come to us discussing increases in labor costs and material costs for doing the lead work that's required.
Thank you. So in fiscal year 2022, HPD spent $1,005,596 or spending, correcting lead-based paint violations. How much of that did HPD recover?
Thank you for that question, council member, and we are currently working with the Department of Finance to obtain an answer for you on that question. As you know, they do the collections for HPD, and I don't have that readily available.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to that update. And of course, those unpaid ERP charges end up in the overall building's municipal arrears, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this question is for the Department of Education regarding lead paint in schools. A 2019 report revealed the presence of hazardous lead paint in classrooms of first graders in New York City public schools. The DOE responded with a survey of all elementary schools built before 1985, confirming the presence of lead paint in 20% of kindergarten and first grade classrooms. DOE then modified the protocol for assessment and remediation. And so now that the schools are back in person, what are the 2022 results of the new protocol? Are schools being assessed 3 times per year? What are the findings? And of classrooms found to contain lead paint, what is the remediation rate?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Chair. So the DOE does, as we do with water, have a very strong lead paint inspection protocol. And we do inspect all of our classrooms 3 times a year, and we inspect all common spaces once a year. And I can share with you the latest round of the results that from the cycle that just concluded in April. We inspected 17,362 rooms. Of those, only 62 required lead paint abatement. And the remediation rate on all of those was 100%. We have made those repairs as of today.
Thank you so much. So moving to NYCHA, and my first question here, hello, Dad. As they make their way up, I'll ask the question, and then our council will administer the oath. So, per the HUD agreement, the NYCHA HUD agreement requires NYCHA to abate lead in its properties by 2039, with 50% of the abatement to be finished by 2029. As of today, can you provide us with a status report on where we are with the lead abatement work, what percentage has been abated, and 2039, frankly, just is a really long time from now. We're losing a lot of children will grow, right? And they may potentially have exposure. Has NYCHA had conversations with City Hall to improve the timeline to abate lead sooner?
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before these committees, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, council member. And my name is Daniel Green. I'm Senior Vice President for Healthy Homes at NYCHA, and I oversee the Lead Hazard Control Department. So the question is about abatement, and I'm pleased to state that we have begun abatement in earnest at NYCHA. Before I get into the numbers, I want to explain a little bit about our abatement policies and how we're achieving a lead-free NYCHA. So first, we aggressively test at the new standard. So all of our apartments will be abated lead-free to the 0.5 standard. We have two primary abatement programs. First, we have our Tempo abatement program, which is the abatement of occupied apartments, which I'll talk about in some detail. And then we have our abatement of vacant apartments upon turnover. When we abate all of our abatements, we abate all components, 0.5 and 1.0 positive. We go beyond the city's turnover requirements. We abate every single surface, friction, non-friction. We abate all components, making it a lead-free apartment upon turnover if it tests positive. So all the numbers I'm going to give today for abatement are from December 2021 on, which is when the standard changed. I don't want to talk about the prior abatements at 1.0 because we're really focused on 0.5 abatements. That is the threshold that we are using to define lead-free. I also want to note on the Tempo abatement program, I'm happy to report this week that we've had over 1,000 residents participate in this program since last July. This program is funded by the city through city capital funds. We have a CP approved for $144 million from OMB just for fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24. And this program not only offers full abatement, but we relocate residents to hotels during the abatement. That's mandatory. We do not perform abatement in occupied apartments anymore. The resident must relocate to a temporary hotel. We provide case managers. We find hotels that are nearby their developments. And then we also provide meals and transportation costs while they are in the hotel awaiting abatement. So the numbers also I want to describe today are an estimate because we are still testing at the 0.5 standard. We began testing at 0.5 immediately in December of 2021. And last year we tested approximately 37,000 apartments. We have results for about 28,000 of those apartments so far. And this year, from this year into a little bit of next year, we'll test an additional 40,000 apartments. And we've prioritized apartments where children under 6 live or visit for more than 10 hours per week. The reason why these numbers are estimates is because I'm basing it on the positivity threshold for 0.5. Since we haven't tested every apartment at 0.5, we don't know what the denominator will be ultimately because we are still testing. Right now, based on results from over 28,000 apartments, the positivity threshold for at least one positive component above 0.5 in a household is about 35%. So that means 35% of the apartments are testing positive at 0.5, and 65% of them are testing negative at 0.5. So when you look at that denominator, NYCHA has 156,723 pre-1978 dwelling units under its portfolio, and that includes apartments in the RAD PACT program. So I'm including both public housing units and apartments in the RAD PACT program. So we have 156,723 apartments. If you assume a 35% positivity threshold, we estimate that there's going to be around 55,000 apartments that will test positive at 0.5. And so to date, as of today, we have abated 3,754 apartments at the 0.5 threshold since December 2021. And the pace of our abatement is getting more and more rapid. This year has been all about scale up of the Tempo abatement program, scale up of our vacant apartment testing program. So we are now in 2023 abating 306 apartments on average per month. And as I said, we've already had over 1,000 residents voluntarily relocate for participation in the occupied or tempo abatement program. Some of those abatements that I described are also done by our PACT partners. So our PACT agreements that were signed after that threshold change mandate the lead-free abatement at the 0.5 standard. Importantly, that includes key developments such as Williamsburg houses and Harlem River houses, which were two of the most lead-contaminated properties in NYCHA portfolios. And I'm very proud of NYCHA to state that those abatements are going on in earnest right now and also involve full relocation of residents during the course of the full abatement. So we take lead seriously here. We know our history with lead. We're here to improve it. Are we perfect? No. We actually issue every 6 months a report that's public on our website, which is submitted to not only the public, but also to our federal monitor and to the Southern District of New York, outlining NYCHA's strengths and also some of the areas that we still need to work on. That's publicly available on NYCHA's website. It's like a 60 or so page report. It also has a report from our Environmental Health and Safety Department on field monitoring of the activities, such as certified workers, lead safe work practices, and so forth.
Thank you so much for that. And we know as DOHMH, our doctor has said, the biggest problem with lead exposure is in private dwelling units. So it's heartening to hear the protocols that NYCHA has in place. But like I said, it's still 2039 is still a long time from now, and so we'll be looking forward to additional ways that NYCHA can get even faster, even better at remediating units. And so how much will it cost to abate all NYCHA to abate lead in all of its properties, and what's the cost per unit that you're seeing at this time?
So let me start with the per unit cost, because that'll give there's some larger cost estimates that have a couple different factors, but I want to start with the per unit cost. So just give me a moment to flip through my notes here. Okay. So the per unit cost right now for abatement of an apartment is $9,400. In that's based on actual costs for the couple thousand abatements that we've done. I don't know, that includes a significant number of those in that cost number. So it's $9,400. And then for relocation costs for occupied apartments, it's $3,500 approximately per family right now for the relocation during the course of abatement. Typical relocation lasts for 9.5 days. Testing costs about $1,000. So for a vacant unit, the sort of all-in cost is $10,500 for testing and abatement. And then for occupied apartments, which we mandate relocation, it's about $13,900 currently. And we monitor those costs on a regular basis.
Is it fair to say, in your perspective, or HPD can also respond to this, that NYCHA has more stringent requirements for abatement of units? You are looking at all surfaces. You're, whether they're friction or not, whether it's peeling or not, you're testing every single thing, and so that these costs might be higher in NYCHA than in a private dwelling unit per the current requirements.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that come with doing business for a public agency like NYCHA, prevailing wage requirements, et cetera. So I can't say I don't know what it costs in a private dwelling unit. I only know what it costs for NYCHA.
Thank you so much.
And the overall cost is much higher than that, but that also includes remediation, and that amount gets monitored on a regular basis. So the overall cost is, as reported in NYCHA's financial statements, is $3.1 billion. But that number includes all RAD PAC developments. That number is sort of is an estimate based on the facts. That was from 2021. We'll revise that estimate this year in our financial statements. So I just want to make sure I provided the complete answer there.
And I think, Councilmember, just in comparing it to that, the work of private landlords, we would always encourage private landlords to do full abatements as well if they're in there doing the work. So, but the costs that NYCHA incurs are also scalable from, they're doing thousands and thousands of units. When you are doing one unit at a time, you may not get that same cost savings that comes with doing this kind of work in bulk. So I think just to, what a private landlord could get on the market might be actually higher in cost than what NYCHA would pay per unit. So I would just, I don't know that to be true, and the landlord folks can obviously speak for themselves, but I think, we get some benefit from the requirements contracts or the type of contracting that we do to do work.
For private owners that engage, that do remediation, do you find that they're doing full remediation or that they're more likely to engage in spot remediation?
In response to HPD violations, I would say that owners are doing the work in response to the violation.
So spot remediation. Do you have data that you can share with the council regarding what work the buildings that receive notice of violations, what work they're undertaking?
I'm not sure that would include anything relevant to the whole apartment. Again, we can tell you where the owners are doing the work. If that's your question, what type of components they're doing work on, we can provide that information.
Okay, thank you. No, and of course, the 2004 law contemplated full remediation in every case, right? The presumption is that lead is everywhere in pre-1960 and pre-1978 buildings. So it's interesting to know that they're only doing what they're sort of caught for.
No, well, but again, council member, the idea is that intact lead paint is not the hazard that we want the owner to address, and we don't want them creating new hazards with tenants in place. So I think, that is not, when I say that, I'm not saying that to fault private owners. I think, especially in the case of turnover, it would be beneficial for an owner to do all of the work while the apartment is vacant, in a way. But when they're responding to violations, the idea is they're doing the annual notice, they're doing the annual investigation to make sure that there is no hazard, and then they're addressing the hazard in response to the violation.
Yeah. But to be clear, they should never be creating new hazards in the sense that they should be practicing safe work practices.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I now want to turn it over to Councilmember Shulman.
So I was asked to give some questions from my colleague, Carlina Rivera. So I will be asking those. Intro 193 would classify peeling lead paint in the common areas of buildings where children under the age of 6 reside, not just in individual units where young children live, as a Class C hazardous violation. It would also ensure that common areas inspections are required under the city's lead laws. While we recognize that children will likely spend significantly less time in common areas than their own unit, my colleagues and I firmly agree that no children should be exposed to lead, and any actions the city can take to make this happen are critical. What resources or support does the administration anticipate needing to meet the requirements set forth in this bill?
Thank you, Council Member. And again, from our perspective, there is a low risk associated with exposure in the common areas. The way the bill is currently written would require HPD on every inspection where we find a child under 6 in the building, and again, correct me if this is not the right interpretation of the bill, to then have the inspector walk the full building, all of the common areas, looking for and documenting peeling paint. And that is a significant amount of time, especially in New York City buildings, some buildings having hundreds of units to do this inspection. And I have no way to know how much peeling paint they're gonna find on that inspection, but if we're doing testing on that inspection as well, again, this could take more than a day to do an inspection of a common area. Writing all of those violations following up with the owners on all of those conditions, potentially having to do emergency repair work as well. It is difficult for me to even estimate what the costs associated with that type of requirement would be.
Okay, what information and outreach does the administration believe would be necessary to ensure the bill's impact is communicated across boroughs and buildings? You sort of alluded to it, but.
Thank you, Council Member. So again, property owners are already required to maintain their common areas of their buildings. So this would be, I guess, strengthening that message around common areas, which we could certainly do at any time. And again, as I said, we're constantly doing outreach to property owners about different aspects of the lead requirements. And certainly we could do, for example, a webinar on maintaining your common areas, or do additional bulletins to owners reminding them about the importance of handling any peeling paint in their common areas. So that's something we can do now.
Okay, so T2023-3347 would require the Department of Housing Preservation and Development to declare a lead hazard a public nuisance, where the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene issues a commissioner's order to correct or remediate a condition related to lead hazards. What administrative challenges do you foresee with declaring a lead hazard a public nuisance?
Thank you, Council Member. So currently, when we receive a commissioner's order to abate from the Department of Health, we already have major responsibilities to respond and enforce there. So we conduct an audit of the building. We conduct a full inspection of the building. We issue violations in both of those cases regarding record keeping and turnover and hazards, obviously. We do emergency repair work if the Department of Health can't get the owner to do the repair work. So we do extensive enforcement around and following the commissioner's orders to abate. We can go into court, and as I've said, we're ramping up our own litigation team to seek correction of the violations we already issue. And I think those will provide us with the enforcement mechanism we need. We currently do not issue public nuisance type violations in any cases, so it would require the building of a whole infrastructure in order to get us that ability, and this would involve a hearing potentially with the property owner. I'm not sure how much more enforcement it would really give us at the end of the day to what we do today, and we do actually the emergency repair, right? So we feel that we have a pretty deep and extensive enforcement apparatus in place, and we would love to continue working on enhancing that rather than creating a whole new type of enforcement mechanism.
You referenced housing court as an option. How many times have you taken that action?
And thank you, Council Member. So as the chair pointed out, we've done that over 100 times in terms of response to both the CODIS and our own audit process. As I mentioned, we just have hired 2 new attorneys who are supposed to be coming on board, which is wonderful. And we have 2 more vacancies to fill, and we expect to be very active in housing court already as a matter of our own process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair Schulman. Do we still have DEP in the room? Okay. So we sent these questions in advance, but would really want to hear from DEP the updated work on the lead service line. So local law, I'll just state it for the record, local law 65 of 2019 required DEP to track all lead water supply mains and service lines and provide that information to the public in the form of an online interactive map. So we just want to make sure that we are receiving that information, and if DEP can send that over, that would be helpful. Thank you. Okay, for DOB, regarding construction dust and pre-notifications, I asked a couple of questions about this with Department of Health and Mental Hygiene earlier, but when a property owner is going to do work that will disturb a certain threshold of paint, whether lead-based or not, pre-notification work is required, or pre-notification of work to Department of Health is required. Local Law 40 of 2021 requires work permit applicants to DOB to state whether they have complied with this requirement. In 2022 and 2023 to date, of the work permit applications DOB has received, how many have indicated compliance with this requirement and how many did not? Does DOB cross-reference this information or of these statements with the Department of Health? And has the requirement in the local law resulted in an increase in pre-notifications?
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before these committees and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Salvatore Agostino, Department of Buildings, Assistant Commissioner for the Enforcement Bureau. So in response to your question about the number of applications that have been received. So in 2022 and 2023, the department implemented new measures on the intake of applications and permits, requiring certain data to be prescribed by the applicant. So building owners are required to notify DOHMH prior to starting the work if it would disturb lead paint. The notification to DOB is an additional notification. DOB shares this information with DOH so that they can cross-reference it with the notifications they receive and take appropriate enforcement action. That's done through a automated data feed that we provide to them. I think that was the answer to your first question. Can you repeat your second question?
The other question was about the numbers. How many work permit applications has DOB received indicating compliance, and how many did not?
I don't have that number for you offhand. I believe the number was in the low hundreds, but I don't have a specific number for you. But we believe that number was underreported due to this being a new requirement.
And what steps is DOB taking to increase compliance with that underreporting?
So we've put out bulletins and notices to the industry. Our applications are filed online, so architects and engineers must follow our protocols as they file. So this is something that we believe they are not used to yet. It has been implemented recently in the last 6 months. So we do expect it to uptick as more applications come in and as it becomes more routine.
Thank you. And regarding any penalties, reportedly a very small percentage of penalties assessed are actually collected with respect to these requirements. What has DOB's collection rate been, and how can it improve the collection rate?
So these questions are not something that would result in a violation. What happens is these are questions on our filing application. If the applications are not filed, or if the questions are not answered, the application can't be filed. Right? So the applicant has to either answer yes or no. So there is a stop in the system if the question is not answered. But this is not an item that would result in a violation. There's no penalty or fee structure for this specific requirement.
Thank you. Does DOB follow up, do a spot check of construction sites to check whether if they selected no, that they actually should have selected yes for DOHMH notification?
So the concept of lead and existence of lead through the Department of Buildings is a difficult one for us to answer. Lead is not specifically in the building code in the city of New York. It exists under DOH, it exists under HPD. So the answer to your question is that our inspectors do not have the knowledge, skills, ability, or training to detect lead during their inspections. It's not something that we are looking for.
But does DOB share the information with DOHMH so that DOHMH could, as the expert in doing these tests, so that DOHMH can check whether, in fact, any no answers were really no, right? That they were not disturbing that amount of wall or whatever.
So what we do share is when our inspectors go out every day looking at active construction sites and occupied buildings, when they do detect dust, they'll issue a violation for failing to comply with the tenant protection plan. So every job in an occupied multiple dwelling has to have a tenant protection plan describing how the contractor and owner will protect the tenants from dust escaping, debris, and various different conditions during construction. If we do detect dust, our inspectors would issue a violation. We also would then refer to DOH the fact that we issued and that it was a site that they could potentially inspect as well. We also do joint inspections with DOH at various different intervals to be able to attack the issue from both sides. DOH to do the lead test and DOB to inspect for construction conditions.
Thank you so much. And DOHMH, when you receive notification of these dust violations, what is your action?
So when we receive a referral from DOB, often from the Office of the Tenant Advocate, we will actually dispatch an inspector to go and see if they continue to work unsafely. Often is the case that DOB's initial response is sufficient, but we will still accept those complaints as we would from any member of the public and follow up.
Great, thank you so much. And this is in 100% of instances?
100% of instances where we get a referral, yes, we will follow up. We will call the constituent. We will first call the constituent. We will go, and if sometimes the work has already been completed, but also will confirm the presence of a child as well. So in rare situations, some buildings don't have children, and then it would not necessarily require lead testing.
Great, thank you so much. I'd like to acknowledge that we have been joined by Councilmember Velasquez from the Boogie Down Bronx. All right. Okay, so with that, that concludes the questions from this council. I look forward to DEP's follow-up, and there were a number of questions that required some follow-up. But I want to thank the administration for your efforts. I'm looking forward to hearing of the work from the lead czar and the coordination within the agencies. And we will look forward to moving these bills forward, because no blood lead level is acceptable. No amount of lead in our environment is acceptable. And so we have to continue to find solutions and find ways to drive down these rates all the way to zero. And I look forward to collaborating with you all on that.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I also want to thank the admin for being here today and for waiting. I know it's a long hearing. This is a really important topic, so thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We will now turn to testimony from members of the public. Just as a reminder for those who are joining via Zoom and in person, in the interest of time, each member of the public will be set to a clock of 2 minutes per person. If you're joining via Zoom, you will receive a prompt to unmute. Please accept it before you begin. And before we move to it, we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess, and then we'll resume. And the first panel will consist of Aaliyah Sumro, Lonnie J. Portis, Christine Ruga, and Jessica Belinder. Thank you.
So we will begin shortly. I just want to take a moment to congratulate someone who is putting away her bags. I want to congratulate Audrey Sun, who's just been promoted to Assistant Deputy Director of the Infrastructure Division within the City Council. Thank you so much for all your help on this committee. So we're gonna swap here, and then we'll begin with the public testimony. Okay, we will now begin public testimony.
Calling up again, Aaliyah Samro, Lonnie Portis, Christine Ruca, and Jessica Belinder.
Whoever's ready can begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Alia Sumro, and I'm the Deputy Director for New York City Policy at the New York League of Conservation Voters. Thank you, Chairs Sanchez and Schulman, and members of the Committees on Housing and Buildings and Health for the opportunity to testify today. We have submitted longer comments. As a member of the New York City Coalition to End Lead Poisoning, NYLCV stands with advocates calling for the elimination of lead poisoning in New York City. The city must do more to eliminate all sources of lead exposure because no level of lead exposure is safe, as even small amounts can cause neurological damage and other health problems. Lead is highly toxic and can encroach into our bones, bloods, tissues, as we heard earlier today. Lead exposure is particularly damaging for children under 6 as their bodies are still developing. Sadly, lead exposure continues to disproportionately affect children in low-income and communities of color. Nearly 70% of lead-poisoned children come from underserved neighborhoods. Despite the enactment of Local Law 1 of 2004, the most ambitious lead poisoning prevention law in the country, lead poisoning is still a major concern because city agencies have consistently failed to enforce this law. The fact that lead poisoning continues to exist in New York City 18 years after the enactment of Local Law 1 exemplifies the need for action. We appreciate that the City Council is holding a multi-agency oversight hearing on lead-based paint hazards. However, we must continue pushing to pass legislation that would boost prevention, enhance early identification of lead exposure, and create better enforcement of existing laws. NYLCV supports all the bills being considered today. They were identified as priorities in the Coalition's 2022 lead agenda and will help our city follow through on its commitment to end lead poisoning. Lastly, we would be remiss if we did not mention the importance of investing in funding and city programs that protect children from lead poisoning. While the state has implemented a program to reduce lead in school drinking water, the city must enact its own program to replace lead service line made of lead. There are various sources of funding that the city should leverage, including the New York State Environmental Bond Act, which has at least $650 million dedicated towards water quality improvement and resilient infrastructure. That includes lead service line replacements. And finally, we also want to emphasize the importance of funding and staffing city agencies to enforce existing laws and hopefully future laws. No person should fall victim to lead poisoning, and it's up to the city to ensure that it doesn't happen. We will look forward to working with the City Council, the administration, and fellow advocates. Thank you.
All right, I'll go. Good afternoon. My name is Lonnie Portis. I'm the New York City Policy and Advocacy Manager at We Act for Environmental Justice. And I kind of want to start and say, well, you know, thank you so much, both Chair Sanchez and Chair Shulman, for holding this oversight hearing. You know that it's been such a struggle for us to try to get this together, so we're so glad that we were to put it together. And unfortunately, it's, you know, it's kind of, I would be remiss if I can't point out the fact that it's kind of sad that we have to give this public testimony and none of the city agencies are no longer here to kind of hear what we have to say. But with that said, I still think this was really important for us to have this hearing to really see the intersectionality of the problem that is lead poisoning and lead paint exposure as well. And so we hope, you know, this very timely hearing, because of the announcement made earlier about the lead compliance officer position being created, will it will help kind of pull together some of these siloed agencies when it comes to this work. I won't reiterate a lot since I only have so much time, but I really want to put something in perspective and the magnitude and the problem of into perspective. So between January 2005 and December 2022, there were 169,556 children under the age of 6 who had a blood lead level of 5 micrograms per deciliter or greater. Symbolically, that would represent a population of poisoned children larger than the city of Syracuse or Springfield, Massachusetts, or Alexandria, Virginia, Savannah, Georgia, or Charleston, South Carolina. So I really want that visual to just kind of sink in. That's how big this problem is that there's whole city populations worth of children who are impacted by something that is, as we already said before, lead poisoning is an entirely preventable problem that has long-term effects on children and their well-being. And with the causes and prevention methods being so well established, New York City must take all the urgent steps to completely eliminate childhood lead poisoning, as well as adult lead exposure. I'll wrap up by just saying that We Act is here testifying in support of all the bills being heard today, and we love to hear that the introduction of both bills by Councilmember Rivera and Shulman, respectively, have gotten through and is now part of this larger bill package to end lead poisoning. And again, to reiterate, funding is necessary, staffing is necessary, as we heard from this hearing today. And so the city would need to make sure that that they are accurately funding all of these efforts that they have.
Hello. My name is Christine Rucci, and I reside in the East Village. In spring 2017, without my knowledge, lead dust and other toxins were seeping into my apartment. Construction was taking place in a neighboring apartment with the approval of the building's management. It had been taking place without proper permits or proper protection plan in place. They did not cover walls or safeguard my apartment according to the standard practices required by the Tenants Protection Plan and Local Law 1. All that separated my apartment from the neighboring apartment was a 1/4 inch of wood paneling. Lead dust became trapped in the walls and floors and seeped into all the cloth furnishings. I want to add that at the time my son lived with me, I made the decision as a mother that it was unsafe, and I let him go. I gave up custody so he could go live with his father. In 2017, I reported these issues and had multiple filings with the HPD and Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. It took court orders, fines, major cleanups, and repairs to only partially seal up the toxic walls and floors. Only partial repairs were made, and I was not made aware of the lead results until after the fact, and had since have learned the health risks. Even in 2023, I continue to live with these issues under a new owner-landlord who refuses to follow Local Law 1 and Tenants Protection Plan and continues these reckless construction practices. I have spent many years consistently sick with unexplained symptoms, and I continue to suffer with rashes, severe joint aches, asthma, hypertension, and anxiety, which studies have shown in women over 40 who are exposed to any level of lead. Lead settles inside the bone and is released into the body as estrogen levels drop. Each time my body is being re-exposed. Even my pets became ill. Sadly, one died, and the veterinarians believe that exposure to toxin released during construction was a contributing factor. She was the canary in the coal mine. I have been to multiple specialists and hospitalized, looking for answers to my debilitating health. To date, no organic reason for my health and my subjective ill health, and my doctors concluded that the time coincidence between the construction and my subjective ill health, and suspect the exposure of lead and the toxins, including arsenic and silica from construction dust, are related to these symptoms. It should be noted that the CDC states that any level of lead is toxic, and lead doesn't stop being toxic at age 6 or 10 or 20, or in my case, 60. Lead is a poison and should be treated as such. In 2020, my building was sold, and again in 2021, without proper tenant protection plan, lead abatement, the owners gutted 6 units while 6 units of tenants were living there, and despite stop work orders, multiple agency task force visits, and violations, the construction has continued. And on January 30th, 2023, without warning, and despite HPD violations to seal my unit, full gutting to the subfloor took place above me, raining down toxic dust for 35 days. I self-sealed my unit and have been living under a canopy of toxic dust since January 30th. The new owners were given the lead test results and medical letters to stop construction, but they refused.
I just want to make sure you can summarize your testimony,
Okay.
and we'll
I'm
take a
sorry,
look.
if you could just, anyway, despite everything, sadly, owners can self-certify that they cure these things, and oftentimes the agencies who left the building do not follow up. And despite violating Local Law 1 and the Tenant Protection Plan, these violations were issued, but no fines were ordered to be paid according to public records. By telling my story for the 3rd time before council, I hope that others will be able to know their rights, know how to report these issues, and to strengthen the enforcement of Local Law 1. I ask the council, you all, to support the nightclub lead agenda and pass through interest 5, 6, 193, 200, and 750, towards ending lead poisoning. It's my hope that the Department of Health, HPD, and Department of Buildings streamline communication and issue stop workers follow-up to ensure these violations are cured according to Local 1 and actually hold these contractors,
I'm sorry,
landlords responsible.
We're at time. Thank you so much for your testimony and for sharing your story. And I just want to appreciate the work, your testimony and the work of the Nightclub Coalition in being here today.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Belinder. I'm an attorney with the Legal Aid Society. I am part of the Housing Justice Unit Group Advocacy, and our attorneys represent tenants in groups addressing problems with violations of the housing laws, including violations related to lead paint. And we work with a lot of clients in low-income communities. A lot of our clients are women of color with small children who have been exposed to lead. And we are here today to support all of the bills that are before the council. I wanted to take a moment to emphasize our interest in Intro 750, which we wanted to sort of clarify in the testimony that was heard earlier. It made it sound like this was unnecessary, but we are concerned that the city has data that it is not really using to trigger inspections, that it's still relying on the tenants to complain about either work conditions or possible exposure, and that in fact it should be proactively triggering its own inspections when it sees patterns of high lead exposure for children. And so the Intro 750 would sort of operationalize that and make it something that the city is routinely doing rather than waiting for tenants to take the initiative or waiting for DOHMH to report it. The testimony that we've heard today from the agencies made clear that there is a lot of complexity with respect to the oversight and the protection of the public, and it does not feel like they are communicating effectively with each other. So to the extent that all of these bills increase transparency and accountability and give us tools for holding the city accountable for doing the work that it should have been doing for the past 20 years, we believe that this is a step forward. Obviously, there may be additional resources that are needed, but we think that those are a high priority. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you so much to this panel.
So before you leave, I just want to say that a couple things. One is, usually the agencies do leave somebody here to listen, but what I will tell you is that this is live streamed, and they do have staff looking at it. That's number one. Number two is that we do a comprehensive report, and we do follow up on questions that are asked that they don't have the answers to, so that we have that for the record. That's a lot of times why we ask the question, so that we get something on the record that we could either follow up on or get from them directly. I want to thank all of you for your testimony today, and we're going to push on these bills. And I think it's really important that that we make sure that lead is not anywhere near anybody. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous. So, but we, both of us, me and Chair Sanchez, this is very important to us. I also want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilmember Yeager. So thank you very much, and just know that we will be following up. And I know that this is, you mentioned that this is like the third time you've testified, but the first time in front of this particular council, right? Yeah. So I'm very proud of the fact that we are a female majority-led city council, and that we're trying to get as much done as we can for families and children. So just know that. Thank you.
We'll next be calling up Marion Parkins and Elizabeth Reyes.
Hello? Okay. Thank you for having me, everyone. I'm Elizabeth. I'm a Cecil Corbett Mark Fellow at We Act for Environmental Justice. But today I'll be testifying on behalf of myself and my own personal experiences. So I'm 23. I moved to the United States when I was 20. I've lived in the Bronx my entire life. Each time we moved around 6 or 7 times. And each of those times I've lived in a building that's been older than, that was construction prior to the 1900s. And in each of those instances, I can recall me being lead poisoned, not just by the dust in the paint, but also by the water. Okay, so I guess I'll start. So before I was born, my father didn't have a job, and he would walk around the streets just begging someone to give him a job, and he finally landed one as a construction worker, and he's been a construction worker for the past 20 years. Not one of those times has he ever been given any lesson, any safe procedures, any type of training in regards to lead poisoning, lead, or toxins in general. And each of those times, he's come home from remediating or just working in a lot of old housing, and he's come home with all of that dust and all of his work equipment. And I say this to say that the children of construction workers are 6 times more likely to be lead poisoned than other children. I was 12 when I actually was the one that asked my parents to order a lead testing kit after our water had been orange from moving. We had just moved houses, and I was the one that actually tested my lead, my water for lead at 12 years old, not understanding any of the results. So for the past 10 years, my family has only been drinking water from bottled water. Sorry, people say that like New York has the cleanest water. That's a total BS to me, and it's never been my reality. I have ADHD, I have OCD, I have severe anxiety. Yeah. So, yeah.
You can summarize. Go ahead.
I say this to say that, yeah, I joined environmental justice work. I joined this field to fight a lot of the very harms and environmental racisms that I faced my entire life. And I think that we should be protecting New Yorkers. We should be protecting the children here. And yes, the people are live streaming this and the various agencies are watching us, but I have to go home to my lead poisoned house and they're live streaming it and probably are not living in the same conditions as us. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Good afternoon. My name is Marian Parkins, and I work as a nurse at Harlem Hospital, which is part of the New York City Health and Hospital System. I am also a proud union member of the New York State Nurses Association. NYSNA represents 42,000 nurses across New York State, including 25,000 RN in New York City. 9,000 of these New York City RNs work for New York City Health and Hospital. As a nurse on the front line of patient care, we see firsthand the harm that lead poisoning causes children, especially low-income and Black and brown children in environmental justice communities, where environmental hazards contribute to unacceptable health disparities. Fortunately, the New York City Council can address this injustice and improve the lifelong health of residents by closing the loopholes in existing lead laws. Within public health, we talk a lot about the social determinants of health. These are the social and economic conditions that influence differences in health outcomes. The fact regarding lead poisoning clearly show the health obstacle that low-income Black and brown children face. Nearly 70% of lead-poisoned children are from underserved neighborhoods. Black, Latino, and Asian children make up more than 80% of newly identified lead poisoning cases in children under the age of 6. New York has more known cases of children with elevated blood levels than any other state. This is certainly not something New York wants to or should be number one at. It is important to note that the public sector nurses at NYCHHC are the ones who are most likely to end up giving care to those in vulnerable environmental justice communities. We are the ones who see chronic health disparities caused by environmental contaminants like lead poisoning and asthma up close in our patients' health effects of lead poisoning include neurological problems, kidney damage, cardiovascular problems, and reproductive issues. These are serious issues that demand quality care and attention. Nurses and allies are also calling for pay equity for health and hospital nurses as a matter of health equity and racial justice. We think it's not coincident that the public hospital nurses who provide the lion's share of care for the New Yorkers with the worst health are also the lowest paid hospital nurses in the city. Low pay for us worsens health disparities for our patients, and equal pay for the mostly black and brown nurses who work in the public sector drive understaffing and unequal care for New York's predominantly working class black and brown communities. We see public health issues such as environmental racism and H&H nurses fighting for a fair contract and pay parity with the private sector as going hand in hand in order for health disparities to improve in our most vulnerable communities. We need a workforce that is treated fairly. We are proud to stand with our allies like WEAC in demanding change. We urge the City Council to pass the package of bill now to protect our children against the effects of lead in their water. We also urge you to support pay parity for the nurses of New York City Health and Hospital. Thank you for this time and consideration.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you do, and absolutely, we support you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Our next panel will be Frank Ricci, Joseph Condon, and Ryan Manel.
You may begin. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Ryan Manel had to leave, so I'm joined by Kelly Farrell from RSA. My name's Frank Ricci. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Rent Stabilization Association. We are the trade association that represents approximately 25,000 owners, which consists of about 1 million units of housing in New York City. My testimony today is limited to opposition of Intro 6, 5, and 193. I'll start with the most important one for us, which is Intro 6. I'm not going to recite what it would do other than it would impose requirements that are now only due on vacant apartments to occupied apartments, and we know that that would actually be counterproductive to the goal of lessening the incidence of elevated blood lead levels in children as well as residents in the city. Oftentimes that remediation that takes place would require, first of all, a lot of encapsulation of living areas, which would be a problem for a lot of tenants. So relocation would be an issue. And in doing so, children would be disrupted from their school programs, and it would actually be more exposure to tenants in those apartments. So I'm not going to read my testimony because I know the time's limited, but we actually recite a number of the things that might take place should you have to do it with tenants in place, and we think that's not productive. I'd also like to point out that on Intro 5, as you heard from HPD, it's kind of redundant in terms of maintaining those records. And if I could just go into a few minutes about, I know there's a lot of discussion earlier about owner notification to tenants, and that oftentimes they have to produce 10 years worth of records, they receive a violation. When it comes to notification to tenants, the biggest complaint we hear from our members, and we actually provide a service for our members to notify tenants, asking them to respond if there's a child under 6 in the apartment. And we do this, it's an automated service in terms of there's a first notice that goes out. If the tenant doesn't respond 2 weeks later, a second notice goes out. Then 2 weeks later, a third notice goes out. Then there's actually a phone call to the tenant, and then there's actually someone who knocks on the door to the tenant. And I think if we want to really reduce the incidence of blood lead levels, we have to acknowledge and recognize that this, just like abating rats, just like making sure window guards get put up, it's a cooperative effort, and tenants need to cooperate and let owners know if there is a child under 6. And oftentimes, people may say, well, I don't have a child under 6, but there might be a child who's spending 10 hours a week there because it's a caregiver. They need to be cooperating with owners on this to respond. But the biggest complaint we get, and the vast majority of tenants do not respond to these notices. And it also goes for the window guard notices. And obviously now we have a big issue with fire hazards and cooperating with that too. Those notices all go out the first week of January. But I think that we need to put a little bit more emphasis on the part of tenants to cooperate with owners to solve these problems.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ritchie. Have you tried anything like making you would, I don't know, tying it to rent or anything like that? Any other incentives? Are you only doing paper notices?
Well, we do what's required by the law, and the law says it can't be part of the rent notice. It has to be a separate notice. It goes out, it has to be served by January 15th. If there's no response, 2 weeks later, a second notice goes out. And then as part of our service, which is enhanced, we do a third notice, we do a phone call, and then we actually, the owners can choose to either knock on the door themselves or they can have someone do it. And we catalog all that. We have records going back to at least on window guard notices back to 1988, and I don't recall the exact year that the lead notices started being required. But when we do that service for owners, which they pay us an extra fee for, we retain all those notices.
Thank you.
And the proof of mailing.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Joseph Condon, and I'm presenting this testimony on behalf of the Community Housing Improvement Program, also known as CHIP. CHIP is a trade association. We also represent rent-stabilized housing providers throughout New York City. Most of our members provide housing in outer borough working-class neighborhoods. They are aware that lead paint is a serious issue in New York City, but they're also aware that New York City is leaps and bounds ahead of other jurisdictions in terms of lead paint safety. We heard many of the recent additions to the law that strengthened not only enforcement but lowered thresholds that were adopted over the last 4 years. We believe that those recent changes, in particular the requirement to XRF all apartments by 2025, should be given time to make an impact and reported by agencies to this council to determine if additional legislative steps are necessary. However, if the council does believe there is a need to act, we would like to work with the council and the bill sponsors to ensure that the laws that do get adopted work in practice. We do have several practical concerns regarding some of the bills being heard today. In particular, the burdens that will be placed on both tenants and housing providers under Intro Number 6. Our main concern is that Intro 6 will lead to displacement of existing tenants. As you've heard throughout the day, turnover work was designed to occur on turnover because it is disruptive to tenants who are in occupancy, potentially creates additional lead paint hazards, lead dust, and other unsafe conditions for tenants to remain while this work is happening. There is also access needed to the apartment, not just to the walls, but to the floor areas. Turnover work requires owners to make bare all floor areas. So not only the tenants in occupancy would have to be relocated, but furniture as well. Just to summarize, we are also concerned about some unintended consequences that may occur from Intro Number 6. This was turnover work that was done before changes to the lead laws that were mentioned. So turnover work before 2021 may no longer be in compliance with the stricter definitions of lead paint that were recently adopted. So because of these lower thresholds, paint on doors and door frames that was considered lead-free at 0.6 or 0.7 micrograms per centimeter squared under an XRF test would now be considered lead paint. And under Intro 6, an owner would be forced to re-perform turnover work in these units for a second time and displace the current tenant to do so. We also think that better targeted enforcement is a useful tool rather than adopting broad-based legislation. First of all, for apartments that are not accessed by owners, the Department of Health is notified by owners of that inability to gain access. So the Department of Health should have a list of apartments that were not, that did not undergo the annual investigation. So that's an easy place to start to look at targeted enforcement. The other part of this is the Department of Health's report on elevated blood levels in children. That report assumes that every single child has been poisoned by the apartment in which they're living. There's no data or statistics about the sources of those of the lead poisoning for those children. There is a presumption that it all comes from where they live. That's not necessarily the case, and it would also help target enforcement and ultimately the goal of preventing lead poisoning in any child. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. And I will double check on that with DOHMH. They do an extensive review, and I don't think they assume just one source. They search in they ask many questions about potential exposure.
Right, but those apartments that don't get the investigation because there is no access, the Department of Health is notified of those. So they should be checking those apartments because those are the apartments that the owners were not able to get into.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Next will be a Zoom panel, Edward Rudick, followed by Brandon Kilbasa, then Alapa Sarah Tupac.
Yeah, I guess I'm first. My name is Ed Rudick from Lead Dust Free NYC. I support the new proposed lead laws. I want to preface my testimony to say that laws that are not enforced are meaningless, and present laws meant to protect people from these toxins are routinely ignored. To great fanfare, Mayor Adams appointed a rat czar to get rid of rats plaguing our city. It seems that someone read my testimony. How about the appointment of the czar to tackle lead poisoning? They would be responsible to coordinate actions by all the appropriate city agencies in eliminating lead hazards. This should have been done long ago, since there's a direct link between lead exposure and the incurable ailments, as previously stated, suffered by our children. Our main task for this czar would include overseeing that lead paint remediation laws were followed when disturbing more than 100 square feet of lead paint, replacing windows, or fixing violations issued by New York City HPD. Furthermore, HPD has a number of record-keeping forms that landlords must submit to keep in compliance with local Law 1 requirements. The question is, are these being filed? Perhaps the landlord should have to sign the aforementioned forms, which would make them personally responsible for the information provided. The forms have to be closely inspected to ensure that any lead testing is performed by a certified EPA inspector or risk assessor. The tester needs to be an independent tester, not connected to landlord lead paint mediator. This is one of the work practices that landlords must follow to adhere to Local 1 and EPA regulations. Use lead-safe work practices and train workers in fixing lead paint hazards and when doing general repair work that disturbs lead paint. Multiple unannounced inspections, stop workers, and follow-ups would be the rule. My colleagues can attest that in many cases they are aware of some personal. You will not find required posted tenant protection plans, sealed off work areas, properly trained or retired workers who quite often carry lead dust to their homes and children. You will not find help with filters on the site. A comprehensive approach needs to be implemented to end this scourge, such as using construction as harassments need to be severely dealt with. Appropriate fines of violations that are non-negotiable and paid promptly, and hiding behind LLCs should end. People of all ages being sold
if you could summarize the remainder.
Yes, I am. I'm almost finished here. People of all ages are being assaulted every day because of wanton disregard for the health. A tenant dealing with these toxins and entering a home, they're worn down, disheartened, overwhelmed, depressed. In the end, they can't find a way out of that maze. I support the new bills and the strong enforcement of them and others already enacted. Thank you very much for allowing me to testify.
Thank you.
Brandon Kilbasa.
You may begin.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking the time to hold this hearing to hear my testimony today. I'm Brandon Kilbasa, and I'm the Director of Organizing at the Cooper Square Committee. The Cooper Square Committee is a tenants' rights organization in the Lower East Side. We're a proud member of New York City's Coalition to End Lead Poisoning, and also the coordinators of the Lead Dust Free NYC Coalition, the coalition that Ed Rudick, who just spoke, is a member of, and Christine Rucci and others. In one of the main things that LDF NYC is calling for is comprehensive reforms to end lead poisoning, and especially around the enforcement of safe work practices and construction work being done in buildings built before 1960. So our members are folks who've experienced these toxic dust bombardments because their buildings have been worked on and safe work practices have not been followed. So I'm here today to testify and say that we're very much in favor of all 5 of the bills that are being heard today, including the other 2 that were introduced as well today for the first time. These bills have the capacity to reform the way New York City agencies perform enforcement in buildings related to lead poisoning prevention. Lead contamination due to uncontrolled construction dust is absolutely not uncommon in the neighborhood I work in. Shoddy work practices are frequently employed by the most aggressive speculators, speculative landlords in the Lower East Side. Construction work has contaminated buildings in the neighborhood I work in up to sometimes as high as 210 times the legal level threshold for lead in dust. So well, most of the bills that are being heard today actually don't take on the issue of construction dust and safe work practices squarely, with the exception of of introduction 193. We are really in favor of all the other ones because of the other aspects that they'll bring with them, which are critically important in general pressure on landlords to do the right thing and having additional enforcement measures in place. So local law, or introduction 193, which looks at common areas, is a particular interest.
Your time has expired.
Thank you for your time today, and please concentrate on oversight as much as the new legislation. It's really important to get the laws that are in place as effective as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next is Alapa Sarah Tupac.
You may begin.
Hi everyone, how's it going? My name is Iyap Saudi Tupac, and I live in Lower Manhattan. I am a community organizer who has spent extensive time working with tenants who have experienced exposure to lead dust over the years, tenants whose lives were severely impacted by construction dust because of careless work practices and inattentive landlords. When conducting lead exposure surveys with these tenants, many of them would detail their stories, how much they suffered, and how they hoped no other tenant would ever experience what they went through. I'm here to express support for the 5 bills being heard today. We need to empower New York City agencies in performing enforcement in such buildings. We need peeling lead paint to become an immediate C violation, and we need HPD and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene develop a program to inspect high-risk lead poisoned buildings. As more tenants become poisoned by lead dust in our city, it is the duty of our government to pass these bills. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next panel will be a hybrid panel on Zoom, Ernestine Corbett, Mbaki Thiam, and then in person, Ashley Saunders. So first, Ernestine Corbett, if you get the notification to unmute, please do.
You may begin.
Okay, hold on one second. I want to talk about the molds and the mildew that's going on in people's apartment. Also, the water that's being contaminated, smelling like dead mice. I live out here in Brooklyn, in Atlantic Terminal, and there's been an issue with the molds and the mildew. And when they paint in here, they just paint over a leak, and it comes back bubbled up. The molds and mildew in the closet and on the ceiling walls. Also, the water, when it comes out in the morning, it smells just like dead mice through the pipes. So there's an ongoing issue that's been going on for a long time, and nobody has done nothing about it at all. So where do I go from here with these issues?
Where did you say you lived?
Atlantic Terminal in Brooklyn.
And your landlord is a private landlord?
Yeah, it's a management, yeah. Because my friend owns this apartment, but this has been an ongoing issue for a very long time.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony and your story today. We'll try to follow up with your contact information and follow up with you directly, if that's okay. Just in case, if you can email my office, district14@council.nyc.gov. That's district14@council.nyc.gov, and we can follow up with you.
Next on Zoom, Mbake Thiam.
You may begin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mbake Cham. I'm the Housing, Health, and Action Network Community Organizer at Sydney Center for the Independence of the Disabled in New York. So I'm here today, and I'm happy to share about my my support of this new bill, and also I'm happy to see the work that you guys are doing in order to enable the children who are living with disabilities or who may encounter these hindrances that would have a developmental impact in their life. So I will be very short in my testimony, and I'm sharing that I support the new bill, and I'm happy to be here and joining into the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashley Saunders, if you're here, please come up.
It's just me. It's just me. I apologize, but my testimony today is not aligned with today's agenda. But I do think I will get a proper opportunity to formally introduce this unique housing and health issue. I am a resident of 315 Amber Street in an area or community that you may know as The Hole. It is located in East New York. Council member Charles Barron is actually the representative for our area. For those who are unfamiliar with the area, it is a community below street level, severely neglected by the city. With me today are some of the tenants from 315 Amber, Peter, a representative from Tenants Union Flatbush, and on Zoom, Ms. Deborah Ack from the East New York Land Trust. We are here to inform the council that the area known as The Hole is deteriorating at a rapid pace to the point where it is uninhabitable. Currently, the tenants in my building and the residents in my community are experiencing extreme flooding of the streets, which is preventing us from entering and leaving our homes. It is also affecting the sanitation and postal services to the area. The water is ankle deep, and yet the area is not zoned as a flood zone. Due to the low-lying area of the community, many homes do not have cesspits, including ours. Cesspits cannot be built in certain areas due to the existence of underground water and the fear that the cesspits would cause contamination. We have a cesspool of raw sewage accumulating in our backyard, and with the constant flooding, the sewage spreads into our yards, the streets, and more alarmingly, into our homes. Due to the floods, the cesspool is being backed up into the structure of our building, into the walls especially. At this moment, I have pockets of raw sewage in my ceiling. The entire backyard is saturated with raw sewage and has been like that since 2008. The raw sewage has caused both my building and surrounding buildings to become infested with roaches and rats. Every morning I wake up to 10 to 15 roaches on my counter, roaches in my refrigerator. The rats are eating through my clothes. My refrigerator, a swarm of roaches and bugs attacked a housing inspector when they attempted to access the backyard to observe the sewage. The building smells of methane, which seeps through the plumbing. We are also experiencing aggressive black mold due to the extreme moisture of the area. The mold is growing into mushrooms in various parts of the home. Sanitation does not collect garbage for weeks at a time. Yesterday, with the rain and the flooding, we lost electricity in our entire building, and the water had gotten into the electrical wiring of the house. To top that off, tenants are becoming physically ill due to these health hazards. My sister developed an upper respiratory infection. Every time repairs are made, the issues reoccur, sometimes worse than before. Now the city has approved for streets to be constructed in front of our homes. Because we are below street level, this newly constructed street would run parallel to the second floor of our homes. Our front yards are going to turn into wells containing water. The luxury apartments being erected at the perimeter of the building is inclined. That slope goes downwards, which cannot run off to enter into the road and block off the building entrance. The landlord and other companies are using this to monetize. We have reported these incidents to various agencies with no help. I was told by the health department that I can clean the black mold and mushrooms with Clorox and a washcloth. Just to summarize, the city actually has a plan for the area, but has been dragging their feet for the past 20 years. The plan is now outdated since the issues have gotten progressively worse. Currently, there's a need not only for infrastructure repairs, but also the rehousing of residents. The community is relating to the council that now is the time.
Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. And you've mentioned that you've connected with Councilmember Barron.
I wrote to him.
Okay. If it's okay, I'd like to follow up and get your contact information so that we can continue to talk about your situation after this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Jang. This concludes the public testimony. If we have inadvertently forgotten to call on someone to testify, please raise your hand using the Zoom raise hand function, and we'll try to hear from you now.
Okay. I want to thank everyone who testified today and let you know, as the chair of the Health Committee, I am committed to ensuring that everyone, no matter what zip code you live in, has access to affordable health care and able to live in an environment that is free of lead and other toxins. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Schulman, Chair Schulman, for your partnership on this hearing. Thank you so much to NYCLEP and advocates and everyone who gave up their time to shed light on the situations that you are individually facing and that our city is facing. Lead poisoning is a situation that children face on the basis of their zip codes, on the basis of their income, on the basis of their situation in life. And it is unacceptable that we still have lead poisoning today. And we've also heard a lot of concerns around construction dust and construction reality. So we're going to continue to follow up on these topics, on these bills. Thank you so much, Councilmember Schulman, and to the committee staff. This hearing is now adjourned.